So try refreshing. Let's see if we're streaming now. Just going to do it the easy way on my phone. All right, so I'm told we're live, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like we are. So Ken, do you have that yet? You just go to my channel and the videos. You'll see the first. You might have to refresh the page.
Yeah, refreshing now. I don't know why it's doing that.
It's all right. I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to get the first question here. So, folks,
I'm in now. I got it.
Okay. So how it works is basically usually, and the comments are starting there. Hello, everyone. Appreciate you saying hello in the comments. And with me, of course, is Coach Ken, who he's probably to your left on the screen. But we're going to get, actually, Ken might be to your right on the screen. Anyway, he's the guy with the dark hair. And Ken and I have worked together for a long time, and we've had some off and ons. But he's a terrific coach, and I'm glad he's here with me. And I have his information over here where you can book a session with him, or you can get the emergency breakup kit up there and see the discount code. So just take a look at all that. But we're going to get started. And how we do it is that a lot of people want to ask questions, and if people pay, it's not fair to just not answer their questions. So we kind of get to those first. You know, that's just kind of how the world works. But I do want to answer as many questions as we can, and we answer free questions when we can as well. But welcome, everyone. Appreciate all the kind things people are saying in the comments. And we're going to go ahead and get going with our first question. Can you read that first question to me? Or let me just see it. Awesome.
You want me to hit it or Joanna hitting it to you?
Well, if you can try to find the question, because it already scrolled past me and it's not on my glasses.
Yeah. I got one. It's from Anthony. See, Coach, if I got broken up with 1 month ago and she's with a rebound now, what are the chances of me getting her back? I've done no contact since the breakup.
Okay, read it one more time, if you don't mind, Ken.
Yeah, I got broken up with 1 month ago. She's in a rebound. What are the chances? And they've been in no contact since the breakup.
Well, if it's truly a rebound, then the chances are pretty good, because by definition, a rebound is just something they're using to feel better for a little while. So if it's a true rebound, the chances are pretty good. And the real issue is going to be what happened as far as what caused attraction to fall to the point of the breakup, and has that changed, or has that perception on her end been able to at least be refreshed a little bit with the silence and no contact itself. So you said it's been a month, and this person's already in a rebound. Usually I just have to say that time will tell if it's a rebound, because usually they're only a couple months or less. Now, sometimes they can last a lot longer. I'm just kind of dealing with averages. But if you do a good job just staying away, then a lot of times, if it's a rebound, then it'll fade out, and you'll end up hearing from her. And the most important thing at that point is going to be if you can let her rebuild some of that intimacy without being clinical about it. And that would just be that you become a really good listener to her, and she feels like you understand her better than anybody else. And you bring up some inside stories, inside jokes, just casually, subtly in a conversation when she's reaching out to you. And you get to where it's where she starts to think of you as the person I can talk to. You know, I've had a bad day. Who can I confide in? And if that's you, and you've been able to show her that you can stay away, and she's the one reaching out, and now this is happening, then that's when your chances are going to be sky high. Because usually somebody who's new like that, a rebound type of relationship, they're not going to have that connection and that kind of communication that leads to intimacy. So that's what I would tell you, is it's going to really be dependent on you being strong with no contact, and we're going to see if that's a real rebound. And if it is, then what I said about intimacy really applies. The next one was, I saw that it came up. Let me take a look at this. It was
Virtual Savage.
Virtual Savage, which is an amazing screen name.
Yeah.
He said, last week my ex texted me asking how I am. She told me she was having health problems, but it was for something she blamed me for in the past from stress. Is this a good sign she is initiating, or could it just be for sympathy? Ken, you want to take this one first since you didn't answer on the last one, and then I'll catch up and you can grab the next question.
Yeah, let me see. She texted me asking how I am. She told me she was having health problems, but it was for something she blamed me for in the past from stress. Okay, it's a good sign that she's initiating. A lot of times people will reach out or they'll do something negative, like they'll unfollow you. Sometimes after a month or two, they might even block you, but do something that in the moment can really hurt your feelings or make you feel like they just got further away. But a lot of times, like I'm not talking about 20% of the time, I'm talking about 50-50. Believe it or not, if they're doing something they don't have to do after a breakup, they're thinking about you. And it's almost like an adult version of that childish game where back in like second or third grade, you might pull the hair of somebody that you like because you don't want to tell them you like them. It's a safe way to protect your pride, but make sure they're thinking about you. The truth is, when somebody is ready to move on from you, they tend not to reach out. You don't want to have contact or interaction with somebody that you broke up with. A lot of times it's messy, it's sticky, it's kind of one of those situations you don't want to revisit. So if they're reaching back out to you, even to complain, keep in mind they don't have to reach out to you. They don't want to say they're thinking about you. So it's a safe way for them to show they're thinking about you, but feel like they haven't kind of given that away. So I take it as a good sign, but I wouldn't let somebody unload on me. If she's calling to complain, just say, hey, I'm sorry you feel that way. Take responsibility for it if you messed up. But if she's just calling to unload on you, don't just tolerate it thinking that, you being willing to take some abuse is going to win back some respect or attraction. That's not going to work. So cut it off if she's just calling to endlessly complain and take solace in the fact that she's thinking about you and you probably mean more to her than she's going to tell you.
Yeah, so I was thinking some of the exact same things you were saying. The first thing is she didn't have to reach out to you about this. If she really didn't care about you, then it wouldn't make much sense for her to reach out. Even if she's doing it to get sympathy, the fact that she wants your sympathy is actually, I guess you could call it like a micro intimacy type of thing, wanting you to feel something toward her. And unless she's trying to get something out of you from that, then that can be a positive. But them reaching out at all, they don't, like Ken said, they don't have to. This is what someone does. First of all, who uh, was this a female?
A chopper was the name.
Okay, I'm just going to assume. So either she's not afraid at all of leading you on by reaching out, which a lot of times, if they are not interested, this is a big point here. If your ex is not interested, not even a little bit, and enough time has passed, they won't reach out specifically because they don't want to lead you on. And I mean, if they are that dead set against being in a relationship, they will have those thoughts like, I don't want to reach out because I don't want to lead him. I don't want to lead her on to thinking I might want to get back together. So if they've already passed that barrier in their mind, then they're not afraid of you thinking about that or at least kind of wondering if that's the case. And that's a positive. If you're looking for positives, and I know so many of you are hurting really bad. And so you're probably thinking, yes, give me those positives. And so it's healthy to take a fair assessment of things. And there are some positives. If this person's reaching out to you, unless they're reaching out to you to tell you they're suing you, you know, it's a good sign. The only other time it wouldn't be is if they just wanted to fight, like they called mad and trying to blame you. But it doesn't sound like that's the case here. It sounds like uh, maybe she's a little bit fearful and she sees you as someone who provides some comfort, which shows there's still a lot of intimacy there. So
Yeah.
I take it as a big positive, not just a small one. I think that's a really solid win for you right there. So there's more details you need to know, obviously, now that you two are talking again to some degree. And I have a lot of videos on that. Definitely the emergency breakup kit talks about that. But your question was, is it a positive sign? And it definitely is. So I can go to the
And
next question here.
well, I did mess that up though. That wasn't chopper. That was actually
Yeah, this
the
one's now
virtual.
Chopper.
Yeah,
The other one was the virtual, what was it?
savage.
Savage, virtual
Yeah,
savage. Assuming that's a dude,
yeah,
but you never know.
yeah.
I have been in no contact for 31 days, and I know that my ex liked to honor his word even if he doesn't like it. How long should I continue to do no contact since he's stubborn and we are a long distance relationship? All right, so I'll give my thoughts real quick here. So no contact 31 days, which is great. A lot of people can't make it that long. So um, kudos on that one. So this is sort of the stubborn ex question. My ex wants to honor his word, and there is definitely some legitimacy to people who think I said this, I want to stick to this, I want to be consistent, especially if they have broken up with you multiple times. Now, it's still almost comical how no contact can continue to work on the same person because it worked before. So it's sort of a pattern that it can work again. However, it does eventually fade and it works a lesser percentage each time it's needed. But it doesn't just drop off the map. Maybe it's like 3 to 5% less effective each time because it can work for a long time if the other person uh, truly believes that you've changed or the situation has changed, and that can even be just that they feel differently, which is not exactly solid ground to walk on. And it's lightning here, by the way. I don't know if you can.
Oh yeah, that was definitely audible.
Yeah. So there's
Or
some
you're
big
really
time thunder.
hungry. Yeah,
Thunder rolls.
yeah.
So um, basically, you also said it was a long distance relationship, and those are tough. And really, when people will be, if they're in a long distance relationship and they want, this is back when I used to do regular coaching, they would want to do couples coaching with me. One of the first things I'd say is, when are you two going to not be a long distance couple? And, usually people don't, they think that they're bulletproof. We can make it, we're special, we can handle the distance. Those couples usually do worse at it, really, because I think that they care so much about each other that it makes it even harder. But those are so difficult, long distance relationships. Until you bridge the gap in geography, you are looking at difficult odds. And so that's why I usually tell people, don't even try it unless you two are making plans. Once you are serious about each other and see a future, you don't need to mess around, okay? And I know that we're told a lot of times, take it slow, and you should take it slow in the beginning. I'm talking about once you know that this is your person and you want a future with this person. Long distance is just, it's going to be very difficult. So you can take that information, everybody listening, and kind of do with that what you will. But that's going to be a huge issue for reconciliation. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and no contact is just is still your number one option, simply because you have to give them the breakup, or else they're going to try harder to break up with you again, or make it permanent, or they're going to do something mean to try to hurt you so you'll stay away from them. It's a nightmare when you don't do it. And so you should do no contact, but just know that even if you were to say to him, uh, I want to bridge the gap, I want to move to where you are, because of the fact that his feelings have faded and fallen, that attraction has fallen, because over time, long distance, what it does is it erodes intimacy, even if you've never been together physically, simply because other people that he is around during his day, he sees them face to face, he hears their voice. It's physically intimate, and there's other things that are related to that as well. But basically, if you're not seeing him, if he doesn't feel like you're near him on at least a decent percentage of the time, then the level of intimacy that it feels for you will not be able to hold up, and it starts falling, and it's difficult. So um, I would, if you hear from him, first tell him that you are willing to move. If you haven't already told him, he needs to know that you want to relocate, or him, whichever it needs to be, but you want to be together with him. And he may have to sit with that for a while. He may respond very casually, like, well, that's not it. And that may be something that has to develop within him, because as attraction builds back, that might be more important to him than it is now. But at the moment, he needs to know it, but it probably won't get you a fast result. Ken?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, I mean, that's not going to be a big shock, right? We train together, so we're going to agree a lot together. But I would say like 31 days feels like eternity when you're in pain. Somebody set you on fire and says, "I'll be back in 31 days." That's a long time. it's not really so long when it comes to your chances of getting them back. It doesn't mean that they're done. And the idea that their pride is going to keep them from reaching out, that's one of those things that fear and logic kind of convince us is true. But human instinct is stronger than fear and logic when it comes to relationships. And I try to look at it this way: like if they're the ones that ended the relationship and they don't miss you enough yet to get to the tipping point where they're not willing to reach out to you with a simple text, and a lot of times somebody can come back just by saying hi on a text message at like 10:30 at night on a Friday. Like people get back together with a simple text. That's simple all the time. The other person doesn't have to swallow their pride and come back crawling and begging and explaining everything they got wrong. In our mind, we kind of imagine they have to do that. In reality, all they have to do is start a conversation that leads to getting back together. If they don't miss you enough to get to that point where they can't break no contact for you and just say, hi, how have you been? Thought about you earlier. And they probably don't miss you enough that you're gonna get a positive reaction if you break no contact. And even if you get a positive reaction, you're both gonna know that even though they broke up with you, you kept coming back. So usually it's gonna come back and bite you sooner or later, but you didn't show the strength to walk away when someone clearly told you they don't want to be with you anymore.
Good thoughts. Very good. Outstanding.
Yeah.
So
That catches.
Trenton Stevens says, "Hey, Coach Lee, thanks for all you do for us. Long story short, 2 weeks, no contact. She wanted to be friends, then kept changing her mind. I said, only call or meet me when serious. Back in the no contact now. Rebound involved." Um, all right. So this situation is one that there's all kinds of potentials as far as the way you could have responded, and it's like a Rubik's cube in terms of how people respond to it. But the idea when they pitch friendship, you can respond in what I think is kind of firm and say, "I'm not interested in friendship. I have plenty of friends, but if you ever, you know, want to talk about getting back together, or if you're interested in more, you can reach out. And maybe we can have a conversation about it." Obviously, make it sound a little nicer than that, but that is a legitimate way to respond, and a good percentage of people that can have some influence on. Obviously, I'm not saying it's the magic way to respond and that it's going to work in every situation, and I don't say that about anything, but that's one way to handle it. And the fact that she reached out about wanting to be friends is an interesting um, bit position too. It's an interesting situation simply because a lot of the time when they reach out, it's because either they feel like you've gotten too far away from them and they're wanting to kind of keep you close so that they can watch, or so that they can make sure that they're certain, and just in case they're not, that they have you close and you're not with anybody else. And so they want to knowingly give you this bait, thinking that you'll take friendship, that you're so into them that you'll take friendship, which is a terrible thing for them to think about you. And you'd much rather have the next scenario that I'm going to talk about, which is that they feel badly about how the breakup ended, but that's not all. In other words, it's not just because they feel guilty, but they feel badly about how the breakup or how the relationship ended, how the breakup happened. They feel badly about that, and that harms the intimacy they feel with you, and so they want to kind of, what is it, bury the hatchet. They want to make things right with you, and that's not all. That's where it gets a little bit varied, because they could very well be thinking, if I don't get things right between us, then I definitely won't be able to get back together with them. And so they feel like that's sort of the first step, which that's what you obviously want them to think. So it can be a lot of different things, but after 2 weeks, usually if it happens that soon, it's they felt like, wow, what a harsh ending. It was like a lock breaks. We skidded to this halt after this relationship, and it feels unnatural to them, to her. I think she's probably missing some of that intimacy, and so she thinks friendship will let her feel some of that, and so she's kind of hoping that that will make her feel better and feel some of that emptiness inside of her heart with friendship with you. So a lot of times it can be a step back towards you. Now you gave her the firm answer, so we'll see how she responds. Let her think about it. Sometimes it takes a while for her to sit with this and think about it. In fact, she will probably, there's a good possibility she'll reach out and even ask you again, are you sure you won't be friends with me? And, that's where you can kind of soften on it and you can just kind of say something like, oh, sure, that'll be fine. You know, the issue, the real problem is when you accept it and you act like that's a wonderful thing and we're going to be best buddies. But if you just kind of respond almost politely, sort of like in public, how we'll say, how are you doing? Everybody's going to say, I'm doing pretty good. How about you? Or I'm doing all right. How are you? Nobody's really going to tell you anything, right? It's a casual response. You're just being polite in society. And that's kind of how you can treat it. You can just say, sure, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't sound like you're real enthusiastic about it. And the real key is you don't act like a friend. Okay, so those are my thoughts on that one. Let me hop to the next one here. This is fashion love. Interesting. Fashion love. Broke up with married man because his wife cheated and he wanted space. He liked some girl's picture. He reached out later to say, after ignoring me, he went on a boys' trip, saw him on Instagram, following some girls, and now he's now reaching out casually. How do I respond? Okay, so he's got a lot of girls, a lot of other women in his life right now, and I think Ken would agree with me here. We're going to hear Ken's thoughts too, but you got to be really careful that he doesn't just have you on his list. You're not just in the rotation or when he's bored with another one and he's just wanting to kind of keep you close. It has that feel to me, and based on what you're describing, as far as him kind of publicly following all these people and interacting with some of these other girls, in addition to if he thinks his marriage is about to be over, he probably feels just this truckload of freedom because now he has any option in the world. And if you were involved with him, then he might even think that he was moving too quickly by being with you and that he wants to, now that the marriage is going to be over because his wife cheated, that now he has the world at his fingertips. And so he's not real sure about you, but he wants to keep you close. So my suggestion would be to be casual and polite with him. And if he flirts, you can even flirt back a little bit. But I would let him feel some of the distance as far as if he wants to treat you like you're his girlfriend, then you expect for him to act like a boyfriend and not do the things that he was doing, liking the other girls' posts and all that, and interacting with other women. And I would also try to get a definite answer concerning the marriage. I mean, is that really going to end, or are you just kind of the side piece? Or, I mean, what's going on with that? Because there's a lot of red flags in this situation to me, but the biggest thing is going to be don't just be part of his list. And you should expect, if he's wanting to treat you like a girlfriend and you to treat him like a boyfriend, that he's got to act like one. And that's a conversation you're probably going to have. You're going to have to say, I just want to know what's going on in your life. Are you married? How long is this going to last? So are you wanting a girlfriend or are you just wanting to casually date? I normally wouldn't say that, like if you two had just started interacting, but there's so many things going on here, especially with him legally still being married. I think those questions make a lot of sense, and he has to know that you are just not going to be strung along forever. Ken.
Yeah. I kind of love this question, but trust people when they tell you who they are, and remember this: we're all different. We're wired differently. We respond differently. But you could say good guys and bad guys both make mistakes. Good guys don't make certain mistakes. Somebody who authentically loves you, authentically even cares about you, is not going to break up with you because his wife, think about this, because his wife was cheating and now they're getting a divorce. I mean, that really doesn't make any sense. You're talking about a manipulator. You're talking about somebody who's using their pain to justify inflicting pain on you. And then he likes a picture of an 18-year-old girl and he's involved in an OnlyFans kind of girl. This isn't like a confused good guy who's just going through a lot of turmoil. It doesn't matter how much turmoil you're going through. You don't just like treat somebody as poorly as he's treating you. Now, having said all that, that doesn't mean that you're magically going to not want to be with him. And a lot of times we beat ourselves up because we're with a douchebag or we're with a manipulator, and we think, what's wrong with me? Why am I so pathetic that I want to be with somebody who treats me like this? There's nothing wrong with you. Just because somebody's inauthentic doesn't mean suddenly you're inauthentic too. Your feelings are real, even if you're finding out the person you're in love with isn't capable of generating those for other people. It sounds like the two of you are in love with the same person. You're both in love with him. One of those two people should be in love with you, or at least have enough respect for you to not treat you so casually. So don't beat yourself up because you want to be with him, but let this clown go.
All right, and you can subscribe to Coach Ken's channel, by the way. I typed it right here. Don't know if you can see it, but if you just go to youtube.com/Coach Ken, you can subscribe, and he has some amazing content, especially content on like bipolar individuals and BPD and a lot of things like that. Oh, I was trying to think of ADD. My ADD was preventing me from thinking of ADD, but ADD, ADHD, and borderline issues. So check
Thanks,
out that
brother.
channel for sure. And I typed it right up here. So I'm seeing a question now from Corey Nelson. I'm trying to move as quickly as I can. Did I
Well,
mess
let me
things?
just jump in. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there was one from Norris Digital. I just wanted to mention so we don't get him lost. We accidentally skipped him, but go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. You want to read that one since you got it?
Yeah, I got it up right here. Sorry, just a second here. Norris Digital. Can you expand on the dynamic where you didn't show them enough affection when they come back with breadcrumbs on day 45 with a casual back and forth, but then it quickly dies? Do they still think you didn't care enough to change? I'm in day 3 now of no contact phase 2.
So the question was, they think you don't care enough, and that's why they break up with you. And so now the conundrum is, how do I show them I care and not lose them because they're wanting to break up with me? And so a lot of people will say, well, how in the world does no contact work in that situation, or does it work in that situation? And it's certainly a trickier situation, but you also have to remember that dating dynamics or relationship dynamics are quite a bit different than breakup dynamics. And I'll give you one quick example. Have you ever been broken up with by someone and you start telling them how much you love them, and you're telling them how good looking they are, how wonderful you two are together, how you think about them all the time? These are all wonderful things in the right context to the right person. But in that moment, since they're breaking up with you, even if that's what was missing, if they are to the point of breaking up with you, most of the time, they don't care anymore. They don't care if all of a sudden you're going to fix all your stuff because attraction's fallen so much, because it had lasted as long as it did. And so that's what makes it so difficult, because people think, well, I've got to show them that I care and that I love them. And I agree, you do. It's just right now, they are about as receptive as a brick wall. It really doesn't matter. It's not a contest. This is something I say a lot, and I almost feel like I say it too much, but it's not a contest of how much you love them or who loves them the most. It's who they want to be with the most, who they are attracted to the most. So your love for them, even though it sounds like that would be something really important that they would want to hear about and know about and just soak up, and under the right circumstances, in the right context, it definitely is. But when they have broken up with you, I assume you told her, you said, I do love you, I'll improve. That's pretty typical. So they do know you're saying that. So what we have to do now is we have to allow no contact to work on them in terms of letting them think about, what if they lost you? That's all. Let them think about it. Let them live with it a little bit and see if they really want it, because then they might start thinking more about what you said. When you said, I love you, I will change this. This is not me. I'm going to be different if you give me another chance. That's when they start thinking about those words, because all of a sudden, when they start to see how it's their days are without you and without the relationship, and see the breakup face to face, sometimes they don't like it. That's when your words can be important to them. So that's where no contact gives you a chance to then show them. But at the moment, they're going to either, first of all, be annoyed by it. Second of all, think, well, sure, you're just saying that to try to get me back. But if I get back together with you, it'll just go right back to how it was. So it's really worthless, beyond telling them at the breakup that you'll change it. Going forward, to tell them again doesn't really help you, and usually only annoys them. And so it's still pretty standard no contact, give them the breakup. The real differences are when they reach out and how you handle that. And this is where you have to allow the conversation to happen. And you are going to, if they say, I don't know if you can do this, I'm not sure. That's all you need because they're considering that it could happen. So that's when you say, well, the only way that you're going to know is to give us another chance. And I want to do that. And I hope you do too. Just something that simple because they're already talking with you about this. And
Yeah.
so having an argument about it, like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. No, you can't. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to say the only way you're going to know this is if you give us another chance. And I want to do that. I hope you do too. And even if they kind of say, we'll see or something like that, now's your chance to show them. But if they don't think you're going to respect them and give them what they think they want, if they don't think that you're going to leave them when they tell you to because they don't want you in their life anymore, that's really a scary thing. If someone will not leave when you want them to, kind of imagine the social situation of that, how that doesn't seem very stable. So they have to feel that you can respect their decision. Long answer. Um,
Yeah.
let's go to the next
I
one,
like.
and we'll both get on this next one here.
All right, man.
What was the one I was going to read?
Corey Nelson, I believe.
That's right.
Corey Nelson.
I can find him again.
You mean I can read it to you if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Did I mess things up today with my ex? We talked about business, but I could not resist to talk about other things. I didn't beg. Well, I did ask her to call me tonight, but she said I wouldn't hold my breath for now.
Go ahead, man.
No, I don't think you. Okay, you didn't break it beyond repair. But look at it like this: there's kind of good anxiety, bad anxiety. Bad anxiety is when they don't want to talk to you. You're getting on their nerves. They told you they want to break up. They're happy to have the breakup. They're actually feeling some relief. So, in the bad anxiety is what you have. The good anxiety is when you've shown no contact enough that you're demonstrating strength that you might not actually feel. But from the outside, it looks like you're resilient, you're confident, you've accepted the breakup, and you're willing to move on. When somebody is expecting you to be in pursuit and you suddenly cut off affection and you don't keep feeding their ego, then the good anxiety starts to build in them. So when you reassure somebody, if she's reaching out to you for business, take advantage of the opportunity to not take advantage of the opportunity. What I mean by that, when you have a chance to justify interaction, don't take it. So deal with the business you have to deal with. Be very warm. Be engaging. You don't want to be mad. You don't want to be sad. Both of those are attraction killers. But when you can be resilient and even be relaxed, and then not try to push for more time, you're actually projecting strength. The strength is attractive. Sympathy, pity, madness, sadness, those are attraction killers. So in the short term, yeah, you gave her more reassurance that you want her back. You gave her more reassurance that she hasn't really lost you. It's really hard for somebody who breaks up with you to second guess the decision when they don't feel like they've ever lost you. And when you keep taking an opportunity to tell them, I want you back, can we talk? I want you back. I can change. We can make this better. You're really making it impossible for them to miss you because they've never lost you. So in the short term, yeah, you damage that attraction or that good anxiety that might have been building because wherever she is now, she knows you want to talk to her. She knows you're hoping for a phone call. So short term, it did hurt your position, but you can recover from that. You just kind of have to solidify and reinforce that, okay, that was the last bit of reassurance that I'm going to give her.
And you can book a call with Coach Ken. You can see how to do that up on the screen there. Just go to myexpatcoach.com/coach-Ken, and you can book a call with him. And he is absolutely terrific. One of
Most
the main emails that I get would be someone telling me, you referred me to Coach Ken, and I didn't know because it wasn't you, Coach Lee. But then I talked to Coach Ken, and you're not kidding. He's amazing. And I usually forward a few of those to Coach Kim, but I don't all of them because I don't want him to get a big head. But I get those messages a lot from people. So what's the next question?
All right, I've got damn Daniel, 51. Coach Lee, I have a question. My ex is upset with me because I made changes and realizations after a month of no contact. She said she needed time. We went back into no contact 2 weeks and up to date. Why is she still upset with me?
Okay. And I do want to say one thing to the last question. That is, I know there are a lot of you who will accidentally, well, not accidentally, you know what you're doing in the moment. You're breaking, contact, you're choosing to, but you probably tried not to. And I understand it. It does happen. And usually, if it's just one time, it sets you back. A lot of times, it starts the clock over. It does not always destroy your chances. It can lower them slightly, but usually one time, especially if it just wasn't ultra dramatic, usually you're still all right. You just need to go back into no contact. That's still your best option.
But please don't keep doing it. Don't say, okay, it doesn't break it, so I'll do it again a month later, and I'll do it again a month later.
Yeah, you won't be able to stand yourself. Eventually, you're going to see that it's hurting. Um, Now, can read the last bit of that question we just before I answer it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll see. Coach Lee, I have a question. My ex is upset with me because I made changes and realizations after a month of no contact. I'm not really sure I get that contact. My ex is upset with me because I made changes a month after no contact.
Maybe
She said,
there's supposed to be a period after changes. Maybe
yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. I like that. All right, my ex is upset with me because I made changes, period. After a month of no contact. Anyway, she said she needed time. Okay, so she reached out. Okay, this is what I think happened. And correct me if I'm wrong, damn Daniel. All right, so after a month, they reached out, but then found out you made some changes and had some realizations. Her response to your changes and realizations were, okay, I need some time. And then you went back into no contact. And now you're in no contact for 2 weeks. Why is she still upset with me?
you want to answer that one? I thought you were about to answer it.
Yeah, I'm going to say what I think Coach Lee is thinking because it's just what I'm thinking. Man, there's a lot of details missing. I don't. I mean, it'd help to know what. I'm not trying to pry, and maybe Coach Lee is thinking something different. But I'd like to know what the changes, what the realizations, and without kind of knowing more details, because you're asking us why she's still upset, and really it could be. I mean, for all we know, the changes you made is you believe in an open relationship. The changes might be and I'm not trying to get canceled. I'm not making fun. You could be transitioning. I mean, it's literally, universe is wide open. So trying to gauge why she's mad and how long she's going to be mad and why she's still upset. It's kind of a reach.
But it
trying
also,
to make it,
to me, sounds a lot like though she's using the breakup or the distance as like a punishing card.
yeah,
You made changes, so I'm going to break up with you. I mean, people change stuff about themselves quite a bit. I mean, basic things. And if you're going to be that way, you changed, and it's not a like you become horribly mean. That's kind of tacky. I mean, like you've got to keep performing at this level or something, or I'm going to leave. I mean, nobody wants that. So,
yeah,
but
all right,
I did have a lot of questions after that question that I'm not sure about. Maybe he can, if you want to
yeah,
send an email to myexpatcoach@gmail.com and clarify. Hopefully, we can take a look and answer it later, or if not, we'll just respond to that
yeah.
email.
I gotta take a shot. If okay, maybe the changes were if you've been watching Coach Lee's videos, you kind of maybe you learn to draw some reasonable, healthy boundaries. So maybe it's just assume that these are good improvements. She's not sure how she feels about it. If it is that, then let her go into no contact. If somebody's trying to push you into something that's unreasonable, or you're making a change that you like, that's positive for you, and they don't like it, so they're trying to emotionally punish you by going to no contact, let them go. You don't really have a choice. If you sacrifice your sense of respect, boundary, or identity to try to win them back, that's not attractive. And even if they come back, it's going to be short term. That's a guess, right?
Yeah, and I would just definitely give her a nice long gulp of no contact because she needs to know that if she, that saying "f around and find out," that's kind of
Yeah.
what we need her to be
Yeah.
seeing and thinking is like that you're not just going to come running and begging and oh my goodness, you're mad at me and you've left, you're not talking to me, please, what can I do to make you like me again or talk to me again? uh, don't play that game. That's
Yeah.
just not something you want to get involved in. That's not a, to be honest with you, it's probably not even a person you should be involved with. Sometimes that's the answer, and I wish it wasn't,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's just it's who they are, and you would be better off without them. Of
Yeah.
course,
I
we're
like, I
both
like
just
it when
guessing.
Coach Lee's lived in Tennessee a while, but he's the least country accent that you'll ever hear in Tennessee. But I like when you give him a big gulp of no contact. I'm like, open up that can of whoop no contact all over him. because yeah.
So what's the next question, Ken?
Okay, we got Enigma 321. He ended it 1 year ago. Told me he loved me on my birthday after 3 months of no contact. 6 weeks later, I reached out and he still misses me, but it would be hard to talk. So I've been in no contact again since January. Wow, give up hope? Question mark.
Well, so first of all, psychologically, it's difficult for you to just give up hope. It's actually it's not a natural thing simply because usually if you don't have all the information, and we're talking about a situation where there's quite a bit of mystery, there's the element of mystery because you don't know. You've only heard once from him in 6 months, you're frustrated. But what I will say is if you tell yourself, the odds are not great, I do have some hope, but I'm just going to see what the future holds. I'm going to take it one day at a time and I'm going to see what the future holds. That's usually a lot easier. It also gives you a much better chance. The fact that you're staying away and that he did reach out, it's not the worst situation in the world. Now, after this much time, I would like it for you if you would try to move on. If you would try to, and I don't even like saying move on because it sounds like such a cliche, but you know what I'm talking about, this concept that we have difficulty defining. But I think I can define it as that you reach a point where you are okay with the situation and you want something else for your life. You want another relationship for your life. That's how I would define moving on. And so telling yourself you want to move on, but I don't have to do it today. So you're not giving up hope. You're going to take it one day at a time and you're going to allow yourself to be open. So that means in your thoughts. So if you were to see a man out in public and you think, he's kind of cute, maybe you take a few steps toward him and see if he says hello, or you say hello yourself, and you at least have the possibility there where you're allowing it to happen. And you're allowing, sorry, what I mean is you're allowing the possibility of it to happen. And that's how you start to ease yourself into it and you actually start some of the healing process. If this had only been 2 weeks after the breakup, I wouldn't be telling you this because I wouldn't be saying, yeah, you need to hop back out there and try to go on dates. That's too soon. You need to grieve to a point to where you're ready and you're refreshed and ready to go in another relationship. And it's healthy to grieve the relationships for a certain amount of time. But you've done this for 6 months. You've done a good job. He's learned a lesson that you're at least not going to chase him down. So if he does come back to you, he's well aware of that. And a lot of times they stay permanently simply because they don't use leaving you as a manipulation tactic. But that's another answer for another question. Did you answer this one, Ken?
No, but I can be quick about it. I agree with everything you said, and he also sounds like a manipulator. I'm not trying to put that tag on somebody I've never talked to, but when they ended a year ago, and then 3 months after no contact says he loves you on your birthday. I mean that's a serious statement to make after 3 months of no contact on your birthday. And then 6 weeks later, I hate the phrase, it would be hard to talk. I mean, a manipulator, when they break up with you or reject you, they really want to sound like they're being noble, that it hurts them, that they're doing it out of a sense of character and integrity. And they can't talk to you because you just deserve better. They love to come across as like deep, dark, complicated, and confusing. But somebody authentic, they're not going to say it's just too hard to talk to you. I love you, but it's too hard to talk to you. When there's no obstacle between somebody who loves you, they're going to be with you. When they're creating an obstacle because it's just too hard, then that's a huge sign they're not being authentic with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of the stuff you hear at a breakup when they're telling you why they can't have the relationship is just a bunch of it's trash. It's lies. Because if they really want to be with you, they will be. People will do what they want to do. If they don't, it's because they don't want to be with you. And they think that's too harsh of an answer to tell you. So don't buy into even excuses they make that you think maybe I can provide a solution for that. Maybe, but you also need to really let the dust settle. Give them the breakup and assess the situation before you make big leaps. All right, so are we on to another question now?
Yeah. I got Mash Cat 07. Pursued her for 4 months and reached out to her every few weeks. For the last 3.5 months, I'm in no contact and ignoring her in social media. She watches my stories, unfollowed me on Facebook, and then followed me back.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I would say, look, sometimes no contact gets harder when you see a little bit of movement on the other side. It's like I always say, it's like you're starting to see the door crack open, and you're like, oh, the door's cracking open. If I don't act now, and a lot of times you have a compulsion to try to kick the door open the rest of the way. If you're seeing some kind of movement, if she's reaching out every few weeks, if she's like even following and unfollowing, like I said earlier, like I didn't know this question was going to be here, but when I said earlier, sometimes they'll do something negative because they know it's going to get your attention. So a lot of times when they unfollow you, if you don't react to it, then they'll follow you back because, well, you didn't react to it. And the truth is they do care. So just take it as you're getting some signs that no contact is getting a reaction. That anxiety, what we kind of call the good anxiety, is starting to build. Don't let that trigger you into thinking, I got to act now. Because you get that little voice start whispering, if you don't do something now, you're going to lose them forever. That's your sign. This is fate trying to tell you. I bet you guys will meet in another world and she'll say, yeah, I did love you. And if you just reached out to me, we could have been together forever, but you didn't. So now I'm gone forever. Don't listen to that voice. Just take the positive sign that you're getting some movement and stay firm in what you're doing.
Absolutely, because the first stage they're going to go into after the relief period is curiosity. And so a lot of times when they're in curiosity, they will do things that are slightly informational. That where they're trying to gather some information, and they're not really sure what they feel, but they want to see what the details are. Maybe they're going to look and they're going to see that you look like maybe you're dating somebody, and you shouldn't be at this point. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying a lot of things go on in their mind, and they want to find out some information before they get to the next stage, which is where they're more concerned about what's going on, and they can get into preoccupation and things like that. So when they're reaching out to you, it's tough to know what stage they're in. Are they in curiosity? Because it's people reach out sometimes in curiosity, or they just do something small where they don't feel like there's any risk, like liking a post or something, where they're still wanting you to do the heavy lifting and risk most of the rejection, which don't buy that. It
Yeah.
needs to be a mature adult reach out and a text or a call, something beyond liking a picture or giving you a thumbs up or sending you some funny video.
Yeah.
There we go. I think we're ready for number next.
All right. I got it's like PLN 250. Ex broke up with me on September 17th, invited me over. We slept together. She voiced her worries about how she will feel again. Broke up. I blocked her briefly. One conversation since. No contact since August 10th. Long distance relationship, 2 years together, and lived together for some time. Okay, I would say, you mean to jump on it first? So it sounds like this is a definite back and forth. So September invited you over, September 17th, slept together. Then she voiced her worries about how she will feel again. I'm going to assume by that you mean what you're saying is that after she slept with you, she's like, I don't know though, but what if I second guess this again? What if I'm not sure about how I feel? So she broke up. You blocked her briefly, one conversation since, no contact since August. Okay, so you're still early. I know 2 months, no contact since August 10th. So you're looking at what, 2 months and a day? And that's going to be really painful. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I mean, 61 days is painful. But in terms of somebody who's apparently already shown that she can go back and forth. So you don't have to trust me, trust her. You know her better than I do. If she shows an inconsistent or a consistent ability to be inconsistent, right? So she missed you enough, she went over to see you. She slept with you. Right after sleeping with you, she's not sure how she feels. Then she has another conversation with you. So in the brief summary you've given, this person can go back and forth. Give her time, give her space, let her feel the power of no contact to get that anxiety working inside of her, thinking, well, what if I made a mistake? What if he is the one? If she can be afraid of getting back together with you because she's afraid she'll regret it, then not getting back together with you can easily trigger fears that she made a mistake. So just let her have the time. With somebody who can kind of go back and forth like this, the last thing you want to do is give her just enough contact that she can kind of tread water between being with you and losing you. And that's a mistake people make a lot of times. My ex keeps reaching out and I keep reaching out back, and it feels like they're almost coming back and then they're gone. Well, that's because a lot of people can tread water between, all right, over here is be with them forever, and over here is lose them forever. I don't know which one I want. So I'll just kind of stay in the middle. Don't let them do that. Give them the power of the breakup. Let them have your silence.
Absolutely. And if they are interacting with you, what's going to be most important is the action that hopefully is going to come, which is either where they ask you to have lunch, coffee, whatever with them, or to see them somewhere. That's ideal, is that they would be the one to ask. And sometimes it depends on who you're dealing with. Does this person expect for you to do the heavy lifting? And guys, a lot of times women expect you to kind of make the first move and do those moves. And there's a place for that. But you also have to keep in mind that this person is the one who left and who broke up with you. So the ball is in that person's court. Doesn't matter, man or woman. They have to do the heavy lifting unless you did something really bad to cause the breakup. That's a different situation. But if they just kind of said, oh, I don't feel it anymore and left, then they've got to reach out, and they need to ideally be the one to suggest getting together. What's really frustrating is when they don't. And so that's where you kind of have to make a decision, because if it just goes on like the situation that's being described, and I think Kim would agree here, usually it fades out. You two just kind of text here and there, text over a few weeks, and then it becomes less and less, and the relationship doesn't start back. And this person has like an easy step-by-step process to just kind of wean themselves off of you because they're getting a little bit of you. So you need to have some kind of face-to-face interaction, because that's where you can be your most attractive. So try to encourage that, and you have to make that decision if you're going to be the one to invite them somewhere, because it could reach a point where something's got to happen and you might as well. So again, not right away, because it needs to come from them. But if it doesn't, and you begin to think, it's starting to get, we're just having this casual 2 or 3 texts a day, then go ahead and say, when are you free for coffee? Or you could just say, what day this week are you free for coffee? Will Tuesday work? I have Tuesday and Thursday after 3 o'clock. Give them a couple of options and let them pick, because you need to see them face to face. Otherwise, if they are seem like they're just wanting you to do all the talking, it's best, just like Ken said, give them your silence until they start understanding that they need to be doing the heavy lifting right now.
Yeah. And I love what you said there about you can't just kind of, it'll fade out. Like me and Lee sometimes will say, you become the training wheels for them to learn to live life without you. You don't want to do that. So what Lee's saying, you kind of put it on the table. When do you want to meet up? If they're like, well, I don't want to meet up. Okay, great. Then you just have the perfect excuse to go back into no contact. Hey, no problem. I understand. So then you pull back again.
So, yeah, if you can show them that you're not going to chase them down, that's very important. And it's beautiful when it's contrasted with the fact that you offered. And so a lot of times down the road, even just a few days sometimes, they kind of see they made a mistake there. So it's a long journey. Try to take this one day at a time. Not all of it's going to be perfect, okay? So keep that in mind. What do we have next, my friend?
All right, we got Nicole, 1991, coming up. Sorry. Ex broke up with me while pregnant. Been 4 months. I've begged. Just started hanging back out. Had a disagreement last night. I'm in no contact, but have baby shower and doctor appointments coming up. Should I let him attend or continue no contact? Wow. Yeah. I'd say, does he want to attend? I mean, if he broke up with you while pregnant, I'm not going to try to make a blanket statement, but man, that's a tempting one. Your first instinct is, if he broke up with you while you're 4 months pregnant, douchebag alarms are going off. I will say, not knowing you, no offense, you could be a horrible person. I have no idea. I'm not saying you are. I'm going to assume you're not. I'm just saying I don't know a lot of the details. But then you've begged and just started hanging back out, had a disagreement last hangout. and no contact. I mean, it it's pretty unusual that a good man doesn't want to be a part of the birth of his child, doesn't want to go to doctor appointments, doesn't want to be there at the shower. I mean, even if he doesn't want to be with you, he could say, "Of course, I want to be there. I want to make sure the baby's okay. I want to make sure you have everything you need." Even if he doesn't want to be with you. So if he's kind of embracing no contact in these sorts of situations, it doesn't say very good things about who he is. I wouldn't. When you say should I let him attend, if he's asking and he's safe, then let him attend. I think it's good that he wants to be a part of his baby's birth, as long as he's not abusive and he's not, toxic to you while you're trying to carry his child. So there's a lot of information that's missing, and this could go one of a couple of ways without knowing either one of you. But those are my thoughts on the information we have at the moment. What do you think, big man?
Well, I've got like 3 or 4 people in the room here. They're all showing me questions and trying to moderate the chat. Um, would you mind repeating the question so I can make sure I answer it?
No, no problem at all. So the ex broke up with me while pregnant. It's been 4 months.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they begged and they started hanging back out, but then a disagreement during the last hangout put them back into no contact. But they have a baby shower and doctor appointments coming up. Should I let them attend or continue no contact?
Okay, so you should definitely, since this is his child, in my opinion, invite him to the baby shower because it's his child. And if you start a precedence now of trying to get in between the man and his child, it's something that you will probably regret and that he could even resent you for. And even the child later on, if they were to hear, if it were to sound negative, that you didn't even invite dad to the baby shower, you just, there's a lot that could go wrong there. And this is dealing with another person, with another matter. So definitely, if he wants to go, he should definitely be there and he should be honored as the father. Your relationship is a separate issue, and I wouldn't bring it up at the shower. I wouldn't use that situation. It's not appropriate, and it can also make it look like you did that just to talk to him about that. So I would see this as a separate incident that only applies to parents, and I would definitely invite him. I didn't just like totally contradict you, Ken, did I?
No, no,
Okay.
no. No, I like your answer, and I mean, and as a father, I mean, if you do try to come between a father and his child, it kind of causes an almost irreparable damage to the trust. It's like, well, if you're going to keep me from my child, unless I'm a danger to the child, then it's really hard to come back from that. But now, if he's toxic, if he's dangerous, then you have to protect you and the child. But otherwise, it's a big no no.
So what do you think? Should we sell some Coach Lee mugs?
Hey, I love it. I have my collection. And
You
I
have
think
the
I
whole
have more
set though?
energy when I start my day drinking from a Coach Lee mug. I feel
It
like I have that
just
extra boost.
and it the difference is just clear. It just tastes better out of a
Mm,
Coach Lee mug.
undeniable.
All right, so make sure you're subscribing to Coach Ken's channel here, youtube.com/Coach Ken. And also, you can book a call with him with the information above. And there's a discount code for the emergency breakup kit. Since you're here for this live session, you get a significant discount. So there it is up there. You just go to the address and follow the process of buying the kit. When it asks you for the discount code, if you have one, there's your discount code, and you get a discount just for being here. So we have the next question, and Ken's on question duty tonight. So big round of applause for Coach Ken.
I'd like to thank everyone for being here. Okay, I've got X texted me after I called her by mistake after 1 month of no contact. I'm really curious to know if that was an authentic accidental butt dial. But anyway, X texted me after I called her by mistake after 1 month of no contact. You may hate it, but I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. I still really care about you. That's what the text said to the person asking the question. So apparently he accidentally called her, or she accidentally called. I don't know the sexes here, but after they accidentally called, they got a text. You may hate it, but I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. I still really care about you.
So that's one of the biggest catch 22s is when they still care about you and say they still want to be in your life, but to lesser capacity. And it's sort of like when I hate to compare it to business, but let's say that you owned a business and you knew that this person who was a manager just wasn't doing a great job as a manager, and so you demote him or her, you demote that person to maybe they're taking orders at the window now. Do you think that things will just continue smoothly between the two of you, or that there might be a little friction? You have demoted them. It's humiliating. It's frustrating, especially they obviously would rather be a manager, I'm assuming, and make more money. And so it's not just going to be this smooth transition where you both hold hands and skip off into the sunshine like they present it. It's going to be really frustrating. So the reason they're doing this is probably because they, first of all, they feel guilty. And that's a good thing, by the way. A lot of times I'll say, don't use guilt to try to get them back. And you definitely should not try to use it. But if they feel guilty, like they have done something bad by breaking up with you, even if it's just that they know they hurt you, that's a pulse. The fact that there's some concern for you, and I know you don't want pity, and I'm not saying that you're trying to get pity. That's not what this is. Pity is when you're basically making a fool of yourself and you're letting your pain dictate your actions and your thoughts and your words, and you are basically lowering yourself trying to get them back. You're willing to make incredible sacrifices. You're begging, you're pleading, you're putting yourself in this position of the beggar. That's when they would feel pity for you. If they wronged you and they feel badly about it, they don't feel pity for you. They feel guilt because they did something wrong. And sometimes, because when two people have been so close for so long and another person breaks up, especially if they do it more because they think they should, and it's not as much based on what they really feel or want, but they are anticipating something in their future. Anyway, a lot of times they will think that maybe they have damaged fate. That's what it almost feels like, that they have damaged something sacred. So if they feel that and they feel guilty, that can be what's going on. But at the same time, it can also be that they're wanting you to make them feel better about breaking up with you. And so they're wanting to feel like you're okay and that they did the right thing and that they were kind of there for you during the breakup. You know, one of the saddest things I remember a guy ever telling me was, is he said to her, you've been my girlfriend and my best friend. I'm already losing my girlfriend. Please don't take away my best friend because I need to get over my girlfriend. My best friend can help me do that. Now, I feel really bad for him, but also that whole concept is ridiculous in terms of once there's a breakup, like the situation I mentioned where somebody demoted the manager, it just doesn't work the same going forward. You can't go backwards and be happy there until you go back to where you were, because one person's going to want it, and because it's going to feel awkward, it's going to feel weird, it's going to feel fake, and it's going to be really difficult. So when they reach out and they say something like that, you know, you can contact me anytime. I still care about you. That's a minor positive sign. It's a overall it's good. Just don't give them everything they're wanting right then, because what they're wanting in that moment is to feel better about it. Okay? You want them to know you're doing well, but you don't want to give them the free pass as though this is okay. And at any point in the future, if you change your mind, since I'm cool with all this, I'm going to be ready and waiting for you. And so how do you do that? I mean, that's kind of a difficult rope to walk. And that's why Ken is going to tell you how.
Yeah. Okay. I'm curious to see, because we don't cover everything. I think we've covered a lot of situations, but I would kind of take the advantage of the fact that they reached out and said something. Some of that wording is specifically strong. You know, I know you may hate it, but I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I still really care about you. So I agree with everything Coach Lee said. So I'm actually kind of curious to see what he thinks about this. I'd probably recommend just saying, I mean, they worded it that way. I'd say if you want to get together and grab a coffee, or one of the things that Lee mentions in the breakup kit, there are several good situations in there that he lists. So you could use that as a chance to see how quickly they're willing to meet up with you. Then when you meet up with them, I wouldn't use it as a chance to see if they'll get back together with you. But you kind of have a chance to at least gauge and get a temperature feel. And if you can especially come across as resilient, confident, and catching up, without trying to just, thank you for meeting with me. I just wanted to tell you how much I've missed you. I've thought about you every day. I hope you've had a chance to reconsider. I wouldn't say anything like that, but it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's a definite without knowing more of the details. Like if I was in a call, I could ask you details to get more of that background and give you more definite direction. But just based on this little bit of summary, that might be something to consider if the background situation warrants it.
I thought we had a good overall answer to that one.
I like that. Yeah, mental high five. Yeah, I like it.
All right, we can move on to the next one as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I got Melissa Smith. My ex said he's 100% sure of his decision to split up after 5.5 years. He's putting the house on the market. However, he says he still loves me and still asks what I've been up to when we speak.
So, like Ken said in his last answer, I thought he was dead on the money with like three hammers and one nail when he said that, this is an opportunity. And it really is. You just have to be subtle and careful with it. So he is telling you these things, and the ridiculousness of it is that he's doing like a lot of politicians do. They'll tell you one thing while they are simultaneously doing the other. You know, they are literally doing what they're telling you. No, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this other thing while they're doing it. They lie to us. And so do dumpers. They lie. They lie a lot because it's against our nature to hurt someone that we have any kind of, even a little bit of love for, we care about. Hurting them does not feel right. And so, even when you've broken up with this person, if we're just talking from a purely psychological standpoint, once you've had a relationship with someone, it's almost like making a wedge into a wall. If you know much about that kind of stuff, you make a well, you make a reverse triangle and you put a wedge in there. You can do that if you want to do a type of shelving that's kind of an unusual way of doing it. But a wedge is basically where there's been a specific hole made, and now you're going to have something that goes in there. And that's where a relationship, it does it to your psyche in a way. It's like this place inside of your mind, and it's their place, and it's kind of always there. And so there's lots of good reading material on this, but basically, it's almost like the potential is always there unless there are other decisions that have been made and commitments, like the person gets remarried. And usually, then you are very good about tuning it out and being in your life. And you don't sit there and think, man, if they come back, I've got this place, this hole in my head for them to be in. You don't think that way. But just from a psychology standpoint, have you ever had that where let's say a lot of you guys maybe have been in breakups and you don't see the person for a long time, but when you do, initially it's a little awkward, but then you're a little bit surprised at how natural it felt and that it felt like the same. It felt familiar. It was easy to just kind of take it back up with them. That's what I'm talking about. And it's the same is true of friendships. Any relationship you have with another person, it's almost like the potential for that is permanent unless there was cruelty and some things like that, trauma from their abuse. But the reason I'm telling you this is because that him responding that way, I care about you. You can still, talk to me and stuff like that. That's because this doesn't feel natural to him. It is only a good thing. It is a good thing he feels it. But the negative is his actions are going forward that are opposite his words. So that's where he has to really feel some of the consequences of this. And that's where giving him the breakup, you're no longer his girlfriend, and you're going to let things basically proceed. And this is, I'm assuming you two are not married. If there was a marriage, it might be, there's some different things that we would suggest there. But you're going to have to let him feel some of the consequences of this because right now he's more looking at you, feeling bad that he's done this to you and that you're hurting. But we need for him to see that there's consequences in this for him as well. And one of those is that he does not get to just reach out to you and get a free pass as far as how his conscience feels. So,
Yeah. I love it, man. I don't think not only do I not want to add to that, but rather your words just kind of soak in there because, like, if I was in a call, I would have hopefully said something just like that. So,
all right, well, let's go to the next question then.
good answer, man. Yeah, I see. All right, Tom, been in a relationship for 6 years, broken up for 6 months. 1 month ago, she shared her ride status with me through Lyft. Why is that?
Whoa. Well,
Uh, I would say 1 month ago, if that was I wouldn't consider that a breaking of no contact. I wish I knew what you meant by she shared her status. Like, was it late enough? She could have been drunk.
that's what I was
Maybe,
wondering.
maybe it was to kind of torment you. Like, hey, look, I'm out at 1 o'clock and see where I'm going and see what I'm doing. If that's the extent of the reach out after a month ago, it could have been to torment you. It could have been a friend who took her phone. It's really kind of hard and risky to start reading too much into something that subtle. But I definitely wouldn't let that be an instigator for you breaking no contact. I know 6 months is hard though, but 6 years is a pretty long relationship. That's significant time, right? So on average, men take twice as long as the relationship to get over the ex. On average, women take half the length of the relationship to get over the man. So no matter what, you're looking at, unless she's a psychopath or a high level narcissist, I mean, she still thinks about you. So that's the good sign. I wouldn't take that as a reason to break no contact, though. And guessing as to why she did it is really just. I'll turn this question into an example of hyperfocus. Sometimes when you're in enough pain, you'll take little signs and symbols, and then your mind will just analyze it to death, come up with multiple reasons why it could happen. And a lot of times people will convince themselves of something that's just not true, but they've analyzed it to death and they can see it play out in their mind. I bet she did it because she missed me. I bet that's my sign from fate and destiny. I should act on it. It's really hard to know why she shared it with you. All you can know is that's not enough. Somebody broke up with me. They haven't reached out in 6 months. That's not going to be enough for me to come pleading after them or come knocking on their door. I'd just hold tight into no contact and let it build, even though I know after 6 months, you're kind of looking for a reason.
Yeah, and at the same time, hey, this could be really positive in that she could have been kind of saying, you want to get together? I'm in this vehicle. Um, I'm being driven to this place. She might have kind of wanted you to know where she was. I've heard of situations happening like that where people try to do these really subtle things so they're not really risking anything and you're kind of the one risking rejection. It's a possibility. And you didn't bite on it, which means you didn't hurt yourself. You just didn't take any risk there, which is fine. And I probably would have told you if it's not a message, a clear message, assume that she did it by accident. And if she ever mentions it, reaches out, you can say, I thought it was an accident. But right now, it's really just there's too many variables for you to beat yourself up over this because I probably would have said, yeah, don't bite on that just because you don't know what it means. And if you were to reach out and she accidentally did it, then you're going to look like, there you were available if she's thinking she wanted to like meet you somewhere. And if she wasn't thinking that, that makes you look really bad. So there's something that I always suggest people consider when they're making a decision that involves risk, and you weigh the risk with the reward. If the reward is great, then some risk makes sense. But if it's something where the risk and the punishment that you could get outweighs the reward, then that's when you go with the safe conservative play, which in this case would be don't do anything because you don't know for sure what that means. There's no message there unless that's happened before in your relationship and that was a regular thing. But it doesn't sound like that. So I don't think you heard anything, and I would go back into no contact and standard kind of things apply with that, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
make sure that you have subscribed to Coach Ken's channel. There's the link right there. I've highlighted it's youtube.com/Coach Ken,
that's me.
youtube.com/Coach Ken. And you can also book a session with him there. And there's also a discount code up there for the emergency breakup kit, in case you haven't noticed. And you just type that in. It's SCD14. Just go to myexpatcoach.com and start that process. So let's get to the next question because we have lots, and I'm really wanting to answer as many as I can if
Yeah,
I
and
can.
we need to be aware of. I'm going to say this for you. He's in Tennessee where they're having a severe thunderstorm warning. So I know we're going to wrap it up sooner than we normally would, but I know his office is on the second floor too. So I'd rather have him safe, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let me see. Okay, so the next one. Um, what's the time frame usually for a super extended breakup that lasted a year? She's been on a rebound relationship now for 3 months. I know people are not math problems like you guys say, but any ideas, please. And this is apparently a client of mine in the past. So I would say like another relationship or even a rebound relationship that can put no contact. It's like it puts it in an extended period. I like to give a new relationship again, even a rebound relationship, 2 to 4 months to play out. And here's the danger. If you jump in and try to compete with that new relationship, what you're doing is imagine that their ego is right here in the middle and they have this new person flooding their ego. And they've got you competing with that new person flooding their ego. Now they have two people flooding their ego. That's a really addictive position to be in. People tend not to move from that position. And if you're competing with a new person, you're fighting with one glove tied behind your back. The new person has multiple advantages in terms of limerence. And if you don't know about limerence, go check out one of Coach Lee's videos on limerence. He explains it very, very well. Limerence is when somebody's new and they're exciting, they're easier to idealize, they're kind of considered forbidden in a way. So you get that dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline dumping into your bloodstream when you see them. So against that, you have you trying to win her back. You're the old person. You're the person that they know your flaws. You're the person who's already been rejected, but have kind of lowered your worth and trying to plead them to come back. So you're feeding her ego, but you're in an unfair competition. But if you just kind of say, all right, you don't want to be with me. Well, I don't want to be with anybody who's not certain they want to be with me. I refuse to compete for somebody's just for the honor of being in your life. And you walk away. As scary as that is, and as illogical as it might sound, when you walk away, you actually project more strength. You spike attraction. And suddenly, this person that you were competing with and boosting their worth by walking away, now this isn't the new guy. This isn't the winner. This isn't the person that's beating you. Now, this is just the only person left. And the person they tend to think about and their ego tends to wonder about is the person who had enough self respect to walk away. Two people are fighting for me. I'm flattered and I feel gosh darn, I feel important. But if one of them says, forget it, I'm not competing for somebody, and they walk away, that's the one that actually looks strong. So even if it's a rebound, don't give in to the temptation to jump into a battle where you're at a huge disadvantage. To you, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because 100%, like he said, when they are in a new relationship with somebody, it can go one of two ways. And one is that you almost seem like you're trying to mess up the relationship, which they won't like because they're in that newness with them. But the other thing is, um, it's possible if you leave them alone in this new relationship that the intimacy is not there they had with you. And a lot of times that's all it takes. Give them a little while and they'll feel the depth that they're missing. They'll want that back. So, a lot of times the answer is no contact, though there are subtleties and things as we talked about, but try to have as much confidence in it as you can in that situation because if you go watch that video, I'll type the address of it right here, but it's about limerence and it would probably be helpful for you to watch. I'll type that in while Ken is getting the next question warmed up.
All right, I got it. AD broke up with the guy, and I will say this too. When we have to wrap up the super chat, I'm trying to copy and paste every question. So if we don't get to your question by the time it ends, then we'll make sure to get you a response to it, so you won't just be left hanging. So AD broke up with a guy who won't commit. He was angry slash hurt, accused me of forcing him into a relationship, but wanted to keep the friendship. I said, don't contact me ever again. Can I fix and explain with a letter to end peacefully?
So first of all, to clarify what Ken said, we'll try to answer those questions. And if you have to go, then you can come back. And if you want to copy this link you'll be able to see it. Otherwise, it won't be archived, so it'll be private only to the people who are here. But if you want to rewatch this, or if you need to go and we haven't gotten to your question yet, copy that link and like email it to yourself or something. Just copy the link of the video here at the top, like you normally would with a YouTube video, and you can come back and watch it later to get the answer for your question. Or you can email us and say, hey, I paid, and have a screenshot. That'd be great. I paid and you didn't get to my question, and we'll email you a response. So I was really focused on that. Ken, can you read the question again?
Yeah, no problem. Hold on, let me pull back up here. Okay, here we go. I broke up with a guy who wouldn't commit. He was angry/hurt, and he accused me of forcing him into a relationship, but wanted to keep the friendship. I said, don't ever contact me again. Can I fix this and explain with a letter to end it peacefully?
Okay, so you said don't ever contact me again. She said it to him, right?
Yeah, after trying to, apparently she gave him an ultimatum about, committing into a relationship, and he said he wouldn't do it. So she said, okay, then we're done.
Okay. In my opinion, you probably do need to apologize for being harsh. Don't ever contact me again. It's pretty harsh. And I would not make it some big long book of an apology. I would keep it fairly simple. I'd say I said this to you and I was angry and I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't have said that to you. I want you to know that I really wish you the best and I wish you happiness. And you can even add something like, and if you ever change your mind, reach out and maybe we can have a conversation, or you could say, and then maybe we can talk. Put the maybe in there, okay? And send that. I would text it or email it if you could, rather than write it, but because it can tend to look too serious. If you write them a letter, it's a great thing, but in this situation, we kind of want this to just be a casual thing, and we also want to make it easy for them to reply to you. And that's what people don't think about when they want to send the written letters, is there's not a reply button on the paper. Some people have trouble with that, and so if you email them or text them, they can hit reply and they can talk to you and have a conversation with you. I thought I was going to make Ken laugh with that line, but I didn't. I failed.
I was laughing it came out as a cough. I had to hit mute. Sorry, I had to hit mute. Oh, you got me. Yeah, and it's like, man, I was right there with you until I said, don't ever contact me again. Like there's actually, if I have a client and they say, well, when we broke up, they said, don't ever contact me again. I always tell the client, well, if they tell you that, don't contact them again. They have to soften from that position. Otherwise, you're definitely coming in weak. So,
but now in this case, the person who was broken up with is the one who responded with "Don't ever." Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
But so I'm essentially agreeing with you. Yeah, because it sounds like she does want him back, or at least wants to soften it so that it's not quite so harsh. So yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. Well, we can go to the next question then.
Yeah. All right. The great horned owl.
Oh, there's one question before that. How much for a session with Coach Ken? Joey's wanting to know.
Okay. Well, right now, tonight and for the next 3-4 days,
it's $2,000. No, that's not right. It's less than that.
$97 and $2,000. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 97. It's about to go to 147, but right now it's 97. And I have some bundle packages if people are interested in those. Excuse me. Okay, back to the great horned owl. It's really hard not to say that name dramatically. All right, my ex broke up 8 months ago. Blocked, never got to respond. No cheating. Ex saw my mom at her work, had casual conversation with my mom, re-added my mom on Facebook. Then ex recently ghosted my mom when she agreed to meet my mom. Okay, thoughts? By the way, ex deals with anxiety. Okay, I'll me to jump on this. Okay, I would say a lot of times people, especially if, strangely enough, I would have said this even without that last part being added, X deals with anxiety. If somebody's going back and forth, a safe way to kind of have contact with the person they broke up with without actually telling the person they broke up with, hey, I'm second guessing the breakup, is they'll reach out to a family member. They'll reach out to a mom, and they start having this interaction with a friend, a mother, a parent. You get the idea. And then eventually they start going back and forth with that parent or friend as well. What you're kind of seeing is like a reflection of their thinking. They're going back and forth. They're wavering. I always say, I know how frustrating and painful that can be, but take the wavering as a good sign. A lot of times things waver before they collapse. So just kind of look at it like her determination or their determination to be away from you is starting to waver before it crumbles. Don't take it as a sign that you need to reach out. I definitely wouldn't do that. Just kind of enjoy watching them go back and forth. It means it's working. Like if they moved on and they weren't second guessing it, I could tell you, I've broken up with people. Lee's broken up with people. You've probably broken up with people. How many times after you leave a relationship do you feel a compulsion to start a relationship with the mom and start trying to make plans to meet up with the parent? I mean, that's kind of a transparent attempt to not be transparent. So I would take it as a good sign and don't do anything. What do you think,
Right,
big man?
right. And I agree. He's absolutely right. Any action that you're asking, that seems kind of like maybe they're trying to find a path to me. A lot of times that's the case because people do what they want to do. And how many people just say, "Hey, I'm going to go make friends with that person's parent"? There's usually more to it than that,
Yeah. There's a
unless
lot
they
of
just
parents out there that, yeah.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I mean, talk over you. I was just saying there's a lot of parents out there that they could choose to buddy up with. It's strange that they're picking yours.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever you kind of see it as this is a little bit out of the ordinary, then you're usually onto something. And so I think that you are, and you now have some sleeper cells as far as your parents go because they're going to tell you. They won't be able to keep themselves from telling you anything juicy that your ex shares with them. So a lot of good there, a lot of good. Just patience is going to be so important for you. And before we hop to the next question, I will just say that Ken and I have talked about this before privately, but he has been told many times that he doesn't charge enough for his sessions, and because they are so high level, they're so analytical, and because you're talking about someone who genuinely cares about you. And there are other coaches out there, though you have there's no need for you to Google them or listen to their videos or anything like that. But there are other coaches out there, and I can tell you that most of them are 2 or 3 times more, if not significantly more than that. So keep that in mind that you're getting a really high level guy, and we're keeping the prices lower than most of the coaches out there. So anyway, keep that in mind, and you can book a call with him at myexpatcoach.com/coach-ken, and his YouTube channel is youtube.com/coachken. So after this video, give him a subscribe and book a call with him. You could do both. It's like the 1-2 punch. But we are due for another question.
All right, man. Thank you for the kind words, by the way. This is from Lisa DeSouza. This was actually somebody had written a quick question earlier, and I said, "Hey, like I love booking sessions, but I can tell you from your summary, run from this one." So then they went back and paid for a question that says, "You already told me to run from my ex." This was about an hour ago. Who brought his rebound to my house. So this person broke up with him, then brought their new girlfriend to the house to pick up his things. And in the earlier summary, she said he was cussing her out and took no responsibility for their actions. And I said, "Run." She said, "Can you give me more details?" And my thought is a lot of the question you just asked tells the story. So your ex broke up with you, then brings his girlfriend to the house to get his things and is cussing you out in front of his new girlfriend while telling you none of it was his fault and you're to blame for everything. So just listen to that scenario. I mean, a good guy, I understand sometimes breakups happen. It doesn't make him a bad guy because he broke up with you, but it's hard to imagine a good guy is going to be like, "Yeah, I'm going to go pick up my stuff. Hey, you want to come with me? Hey, you want to come inside? Hey, I'm going to start cussing her out while I'm getting my things and taking no responsibility for it. Hey, that'll be fun." So it doesn't sound like a great guy. Now, I don't know the details, so that could be a snap judgment on my end. And if I don't know the details, I'm not saying trust me if there's things that I don't know to read into your story. I'm going just by what you're telling us here. Just on what you're telling us here, this does not sound like an authentic good person that you need to just kind of hold out hope for. And even if you want to hold out hope, I still wouldn't break no contact. I mean, I think, and I'm not going to speak for you here, big man, but I think if somebody asked Lee, so somebody broke up with me, brought the girlfriend to the house, cussed me out, took no responsibility. Do you think I should break no contact? I feel pretty confident. I talk to Lee pretty much every day. We train together. I've known him for 20 years. I'm going to go out on a ledge here and say that he's going to say, no, don't reach out and break no contact for that person. Okay, now we find out if I was right. Big man, what do you think?
Is my face red? Yeah. Yeah, and we met in 2003, so we're coming up on our 20-year reunion, our 20-year anniversary.
An anniversary.
Yeah, that's what it is. Can't
Yeah.
work Ken in there, can you?
Sorry. It's okay.
We'll figure that out. We'll come up with something.
The anniversary?
Yeah.
No, that didn't work. Sorry.
That's not bad at all. So one thing is that during a breakup, because most of us are very goal oriented, and even if we don't know it, like there's something we think that we want, and if we feel like we're going to lose it, or there's a good chance at us getting it, then we will really hyper focus on it. We'll put a lot of energy into it, and we will just try to do anything, even just clawing at the wall, trying to get some traction. We'll grasp at straws. And so part of the problem with that is that sometimes a breakup is a tremendous blessing. And I've shared lots of examples, but I remember one coaching call where a woman told me that the week before, the day before she scheduled the call with me, so it was a week ago, that they had an argument. He was driving the car. It was late at night and raining. He pulled the car over and he said, "Get out." And she didn't have her purse or her phone. And she said, "Can I at least have my purse?" And he said, "No." And he drove off back to the apartment. And I said, "So how far away was that?" And she said it was about 7 miles. And she ended up, a policeman pulled over because he saw her on the side of the road, and he drove her home. She did not tell him about it because that might have ended the way she didn't want to, but maybe she should have told him. But anyway, he drove her home, and now she's wanting to know how she can get back in this guy's good graces because he wants to break up. And that's a bad enough story as it is. If it were a 20-something-year-old or even a 30-something-year-old, this woman was nearly 60. So this is a 60-year-old man who dropped off a 60-year-old, young but 60-year-old woman while it was raining and dark, and he didn't drop her off. I mean, he said, "Get out." And she said that I remember her saying he'd done things like that before. So, I had a difficult conversation with her because I said, I wouldn't feel right being any part of this, helping you get back together with this guy. If I felt like I was responsible for that, putting you in that situation again, I don't see a positive at all. And I actually said, "So how about I just refund you for the call? Because I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear." And she didn't want to do that. No, let's just talk. And so I spent the whole call telling her why I thought it was a bad idea for her to try to get this guy back, and that she needs to see this as a positive. But you see, she's in that mindset of, "I want this. I can't lose this relationship. I've got to get him back." That she's not even thinking about the most important things, which is, in this case, he was abusive to her. He was horrible to her. That's the most important thing. It should be on her mind, but it's not, because she's had loss. And so the natural inclination is to try to recover, to try to save ourselves, right? To try to save what we think we're losing. So keep that in mind if you're going through a breakup, that's a lot of what you're feeling. There's certainly a part of it that's love, but a large part of it is loss. And if you can figure out that's a large part of it, usually you're better off. So let's get to the next question. So maybe that'll make me stop talking.
No, I love what you said, and actually, we can extend it just a little to cover something that might hit a lot of other people. It's like sometimes, I like what you said moved me. We do this for a living, but there's some stories that you're just ow,
Yeah.
like a 60-year-old having a 60-year-old get out of the car, and what really kills you when you deal with relationships like this is you start to realize people that have an exceptional level of empathy and love and sincerity and emotion, they just kind of naturally expect other people to have that same kind of level. So they can go through their whole lives feeling like they don't fit in, wondering why they just keep getting rejected, or they're the ones that get broken up with, and they just feel weak and they don't know why they feel weak. Well, maybe you feel weak not because you're weak. Maybe you feel weak because you feel things deeper than most people. Maybe you love more. Maybe when you feel anger, sadness, faith, whatever you feel, maybe you feel it to a deeper level. And maybe that which is actually a gift. But some people don't feel things to that kind of exceptional level, and they might see you as weak. And it's those people that have the deepest heart. Like me and Lee know somebody named Sarah that we both talked to before in the past. She has an exceptional level of empathy. She loves deeply. And it's really hard for her to accept that somebody else is as heartless as they are. And sometimes just because you can't accept who somebody keeps proving to you they really are, you keep fighting for the relationship. And because you're authentic, you see your own flaws. And then you take your own flaws and use that to justify unreasonable abuse. So you might be in that cycle, but don't think of yourself as weak. Just accept that people aren't as good as you hope they are sometimes. Like I think me and Lee are together. If we saw a 60-year-old man make a 60-year-old woman walk in the rain, we'd probably want to kick his ass. I'm not saying we'd do it, but bad men anger good men. So
that's true. That is definitely true. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I still remember when she was talking to me, just like feeling the hair on my neck stand up, because you and I both have a big time hero complex. And in that moment, I was wanting to be her hero and show up and really let this guy know what's up. But I couldn't. And I think near the end of it, how I got through to her was I said, all right, would you want him to date your daughter?
Yeah.
There was a long pause, and she said no.
Yeah.
I said, well, then why would I want to help you get back together with him? So, yeah, that was an interesting one. But let's get on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say toxic masculinity gets a bad rep. So some people might be thinking, well, you don't know the whole story. Okay, fair enough. But I think Lee would agree with this too. All right, let's say that the 60-year-old woman was capable of saying some pretty harsh stuff. Maybe she was dropping some bombs on him and he just couldn't take it anymore. A good man is still going to get out of the car and walk in the rain. A good man's not going to make the woman get out of the car and walk in the rain. So,
just or in case he's going to say, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's be quiet and let's drive home.
Yeah.
And get her home and inside. And you know what? Maybe you continue, or maybe you just say, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. But really making anybody walk. I mean, can you imagine doing that to anybody?
No.
7 miles away, and then it was dark and raining.
No, that's harsh. And I'm like there's some people I don't like, but I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, and especially just imagine too, like, she said he had done things like that before. And so,
yeah, well, that's not surprising, right?
Yeah. And so keep in mind that a lot of the people who are here listening, you're going through something similar to where you choose to be blind. It's almost like, don't bother me with the insignificant details because I want this person back, right? But that's important. You really need to take inventory of what you're losing, because a lot of times losing in general is such a negative that we forget sometimes that this could be a tremendous stroke of luck or a blessing. And at least humor that idea in your mind, that concept. So let's get to the next question.
Yeah. We got Mira Diana. Coach Lee, I'm on 2 months of no contact. Haven't heard from my ex since August. When we last talked, I did beg and I pleaded for 2 months, and I promised to change.
Okay. Yeah. I wish I had more information, like how long the relationship lasted and what was said at the breakup, and some more of what happened since then, because did she say it after 2 months she begged and pleaded?
I think she's on 2 months of no contact, but she pleaded. So 2 months and 2 months. First 2 months of begging and pleading, and then it stopped, and 2 months of no contact. So I guess 4 months total going by this.
Okay.
But 2 months of begging and pleading, that's built
And
up
so,
quite a bit of assurance, right?
yeah, yeah. So a lot of times people want to know if they should send like an apology letter, where you don't have to call it an apology letter. I know that people call it different things, but it's like a closure letter, but it's basically a clean slate letter. I've heard that one, but usually the answer is no. Okay, if you did something like you insulted them, or you insulted their parents, or you damaged their property, or you cheated on them, something like that, then yes, there needs to be apologies. And if you have not apologized for that, you need to to do something to apologize. And maybe that is a letter. I tend to shy away from those just because they can make you look dramatic and kind of cheesy, just because it's, unless you two are writing letters to each other on a regular basis. Now, saying that, I've also seen them work, but I'm just saying I tend to kind of say, let's not go the letter route because, like I mentioned earlier, there's a reply button on email. There's an easy reply button for text. They just put their finger in there and start typing. When they get a letter, it's not the same thing. There's a difference in momentum. And so keep that in mind. But when you do send a letter like that, a lot of times what happens is they kind of feel sorry for you, but that's about it. So keep that in mind. The best thing for you to do when you won't leave them alone is not to interact with them again, to tell them that you're sorry you haven't left them alone. And I'm not making a joke out of that. I've had people tell me that. They've said, look, I've begged and I've pleaded and it's been weeks or months or whatever. So should I write them a letter or a text telling them I'm sorry that I begged and pleaded? And it's like, no, just you got to kind of save yourself from yourself, stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is to show them, because talk is so cheap. And I was talking to a guy the other day. I don't take many clients. It's not, that's what Ken and Rex do. But I was talking to someone the other day who's a regular client. Okay. So this is before I changed my situation as far as not doing hardly any individual coaching calls. But this person told me that he was letting me see the text thread. And he kept saying, this is the last thing I'm ever going to say to you. This is the last thing I'm going to say. Just wanted to say one last thing. And I'm not exaggerating. In 2 days, I think he said that like 15 or 20 times. I'm telling you that, and I don't think I have to say anything else about it. I think you see how that's going to come across as cheesy and kind of, it's going to seem unauthentic because it sounds like you're trying to create drama to elicit a response. Okay.
Yeah.
People don't relate to that because it's not authentic. And anytime you're fake or you're putting on a show, you're not looking authentic, and people don't connect with you the same. I'm working on a book actually about attraction. That's one of the big things I talk about, is that the more authentic and real you can be without putting on a show, it's easier for you to be attractive. Because first of all, people trust it. Secondly, they can connect with you because they feel like it's the real you. And so keep that in mind. I don't even know if I answered the question, Ken. Help me out.
No, you have. And I agree with you. I'd say it's strange. It does sound like you're trying to be funny, but 2 months of begging and pleading. Look at it like this, and this sounds a little cheesy, but bear with me. It's like, look at your relationship like a house, and when somebody breaks up with you, they're asking you to move out of that house. The last thing you want to do is camp out on the porch and knock on the window. Hey, you remember when I was in there with you? Knocking on the door. I think we could still be good together. It's a natural thing, so I'm not making fun of that. It just means you're authentic. It means you sincerely care about them. That's good. But the more you let them know, hey, I'm right here, and do the begging and pleading, the more you're reassuring them that they don't have to worry about regretting the decision. They've never lost you. If I walked up to them and said, hey, do you regret the breakup? Do you miss your ex? What do you mean, miss my ex? She's right there. See, she's looking through the window. Oh, look, she just sent me a text. Oh, look, I just got an email. Oh, look, they're trying to call. And people wonder why it's so ineffective. It's emotional. And logic will tell you, fight for the relationship. You're not in a relationship if only one of you wants it. You're in denial. The real question isn't how do I fight for this relationship? The real question is how do I trigger a reattraction? How do I project strength? Well, you do that by showing on the outside that you're willing to stay off the porch and go walking down the street looking for other possibilities. Even if you don't feel that way on the inside, you have to project that strength on the outside. Otherwise, you never give them a sense of loss. And why are they going to regret something when they don't feel like they've lost anything? You took 2 months reassuring this person you're not going anywhere. It's going to take a while now for them to get through that 2 months where you convince them you haven't lost me. I still want you. Let's try this. So now you have to give yourself time, give him time to know that, hey, you're not still there waiting. And that's going to take more than 2 months if you spent 2 months constantly reassuring them, hey, I still want you. Do you want me? No. How about now? How about now? So just give it some time.
Yeah, and it's for those of you who wonder about no contact. Is this manipulation? Is this a game? Am I damaging things? Think about it this way. I've made this joke before. I really like Snickers, and I've had like one in the last 4 or 5 years because, sugar. So I want a Snickers bar. I would like to have one right now. One is, as big as this desk. But I have learned to use discipline because I know that it's going to taste good for a minute, maybe, because I eat it pretty fast. And then what's going to happen? I'm going to be really irritated myself because I don't want to gain weight. And I've worked really hard, to make some physical gains, working on, my physique with weights and training and some things like that. And I don't want to
Intermittent
go,
fasting. He's a badass
yeah,
with it.
I don't want to go backwards. So it's
Yeah.
discipline, and it's not me being fake because I want a Snickers, and I'm not hiding that or lying about that or pretending otherwise. I'm choosing to make a decision because I think that avoiding the Snickers will get me something I want more. And that is, when I do a YouTube video that I look at it and I think, well, that looks decent, that I'm not humiliated to put out a video. So there's a goal that I like what I see when I look
Which
at
is what I'm
something.
wrestling with right now. But yeah, I get it.
And it's difficult when you have such an attractive and sexy coach on your staff like him, because
Stop you.
then it just makes me avoid Snickers even more. It's really motivation is what it is. So keep that in mind when you are wondering about no contact and you feel like you want to reach out to them and you almost feel like you're being dishonest. You're not. You're being disciplined. And you're using discipline. So it's sort of like if someone goes into a room and closes the door and locks it. That's not an invitation for you to run around and jump through the window, right? They're still going to feel like you violated their wishes. They're not going to be impressed that you found another way in. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind if you're in no contact. And we are due for the next question, pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Abdul, my ex put a restraining order against me, and we have a son. She agreed to settle a contract with my lawyer. She doesn't want to see me. Is there a chance to reconcile? Oh, yeah. Do you mind?
Not
And
no.
I'll throw this right over to you. Okay. Some of these are a real sensitive spot, especially for, like, I'll be the first one to say it. I think men are getting a raw deal. This whole idea of toxic masculinity. There are toxic men. There are some really bad men that deserve to be in prison. Some of them should be buried under the prison. But the idea that just being masculine is toxic in itself, which is actually becoming a thing, is getting ridiculous. I mean, I hate to say this, but guess what the number one force against bad men in the history of the world has been? It's been good men. So you can't lump them all together. So I'll say this. If you earned that restraining order, then I hope she doesn't go back to you. If she abused the legal system to put a restraining order against you and to keep you from your son, and I'm going to be very clear, I have no idea which one it is. Maybe she's doing the right thing. And if she is, good for her. If she's not, and she's abusing the legal system, which absolutely happens, and I make no apology for saying that, then run from this woman. Save your money, get a really good lawyer, record everything, do everything you can to fight for your rights as a father, and give up on this woman as a girlfriend or a wife. If somebody's going to do that and use your child to hurt you, that's not somebody that I would give even 0.001% chance of waking up, becoming a good person, and being worthy of sharing a life with. Build a healthy life so that your son has a place to visit, has a place to at least have a chance at being in an environment that's not surrounded by a woman who would use the legal system to take a son away from a father and a father away from a son. There are some signs you don't get over. A fight, get over it. Conflict, you get over it. Abusing the legal system with a restraining order, if you didn't warrant it, I'm telling you, walk away, or whatever pain you're in now will be dwarfed by the pain that you'll get in if you stay in a relationship with somebody like this. So I don't know. I hope I said that strongly enough. And if I offended somebody, I don't care in the least. Lee?
So another thing I want to add to that is, um, I don't know if you deserve the restraining order or not. If you did not, I'm putting like two underlines under the part where he said get a lawyer, because they can try to use these things. They'll get a fake restraining order based on no evidence, and a lot of states it's harder to do. For example, in Tennessee, they have a law where you have to actually prove that this person is a danger to you before you actually get a legal restraining order. Because if they violate that restraining order, even if they don't realize they are violating it, like someone coming home from work, a man, a married man coming home from work, going to open the door at his house, she's already gotten a restraining order. He doesn't even know about it. That's a felony. What they will try to do with that, use that against you as leverage to say this person should not be allowed to be at least a full-time parent. That maybe they'll get these supervised visits or whatever. They're going to try to use it against you. So if you did not deserve the restraining order, you need to find a lawyer who is a bulldog, who will fight for you and make sure that she can't use this against you. That being said, we don't know all the details, but we do know that divorce can be really difficult, and Coach Ken is a terrific coach at that, because he has been through those. As I've said before, he's got a tremendous education in the School of Hard Knocks, in addition to the trainings and certification that I've had as a coach. But he knows the insides and outs of the system. He can see pitfalls, and so he's definitely somebody to talk to if that's going on with you, and you can and definitely book a call with him there. But protect yourself, because if she's already filed a restraining order and it's been granted and she's working with the lawyer, he sees a lot of money, or she sees a lot of money in this, and they kind of detach themselves from the situation. They're great people who are lawyers, but just like anything else, it can be abused. So keep that in mind. You want to have somebody on your side who's looking out for you, because there are things you don't even know that could really hurt you with child custody and even financially. Okay, that's one of the reasons they go after child custody, is because if you get the child 20% of the time, then you owe child support when you're not there with the children. So that's
Yeah.
more money, and the lawyers make more money. And anyway, not bashing lawyers, there are great ones out there, but like anything else, it can be abused, and you need to make sure you have a good lawyer who's defending you. All
Yeah.
right.
And lawyers are legally obligated to do their best for their client. They're not legally obligated, despite the really good TV shows with lawyers, to do what's fair, to do what's right. They will destroy you if they can, unless their client, your ex, says, no, have mercy. This is exactly, I want it to be fair. I want it to be reasonable. But if she's getting a restraining order against you and you didn't warrant it, then I wouldn't trust you. You need to get a lawyer. Really, we can't say it enough. Get a lawyer.
Yep, they're bad when they're on the other side of the table from you, but they are great when they are sitting beside you. That I mean, get one.
Yeah, to quote Lee, get a bulldog.
Get
Don't
a
just get some.
bulldog.
Yeah, and ask around. Find somebody that knows that area of law in your area. As a lot of times it sounds silly, but a bail bondsman a lot of times can give you good advice on which lawyers give you the best chance. Okay.
Now, what other coach is going to know that?
Right. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the next question.
Now we got M Rose, 8 years. I'm assuming the relationship, 8 years, was about to move, meet my family, and marry me. Then he left me for the umpteenth time. Always comes back. It's been 3 weeks. He's insecure and afraid of change. How do I respond when he comes back making promises? Man.
Um, so before we get to that one, I just happened to glance down and someone asked uh, how long a session with you was and what that involved, how much that was. Uh, if you want to give them the quick version, and then we'll answer this other question since other people might be wondering about this as well.
Yeah, if you go to my website, which I'm in the middle of redesigning, it's dotheyloveme.com. You can schedule a session. It's right now it's $97 for 45 minutes or 125 for a full hour on Friday or Saturday. Next week it's going to 147 unless you already have it booked before next week gets here. But that's it. You can find it at dotheyloveme.com. And there's also a link at the end of the breakup kits, which I highly recommend getting. This isn't like a marketing pyramid. I'm just telling you the truth. I can make the most of the time in a session if somebody's already seen the kit because there's some really important fundamental information in the kit. So if you're already familiar with those principles, then it helps in the call. It makes the most use of the time.
All right. So if you would please read that question again so we're
Yeah.
all on the same page.
Yeah, you got it, man. 8-year relationship. This guy was about to move, meet her family, and marry her. Then he left her for the umpteenth time. He always comes back. This time it's been 3 weeks. He's insecure and afraid of change. How do I respond when he does come back making promises?
For the umpteenth time, huh? So he's broken up with her a lot.
Yeah, over 8 years. That's probably an accurate estimate. Umpteenth after 8 years.
Sounds pretty accurate. You, in this case, really need to make a decision. Some people can handle this idea that, you two have broken up a lot and you keep finding your way back together. And as I've said in some of my videos, a lot of times that's a great sign for longevity of the relationship is that this person can't really stay away, that they keep coming back. Now, the issue becomes who wants to live in that instability where it's like they leave me, they come back, they leave me, they come back. I mean, it's a nightmare scenario in a lot of ways. And so you have to decide if that's something you can take because I'm here to tell you that usually they keep coming back and leaving, keep coming back and leaving. And at some point, if you haven't already, when you two do get back together again, which I'm pretty sure you're going to hear from them again, you need to have a conversation about the future because a lot of times this type of thing happens because there's not a clear expectation that's been stated, like we're going to get married one day. And then when that's stated, there needs to be clear steps toward that. And, I'm not saying that everyone should get married, but uh, a lot of people expect that for their life. And when a relationship feels like it's reached its peak and that's not marriage, a lot of times people still have some feeling of being single. And it can kind of mess things up. So those long relationships where they think we'll get married one day, those are pretty risky. And a lot of times they have some issues. If, and I know it sounds kind of hard line here. I'm just talking mostly out of observation of statistics and how some of this works. But once you've reached sort of the pinnacle of your relationship, and that's not marriage. So basically, the next step is marriage, and that's something that both of you are open to and expect in your life. You do need to start making some moves toward that because you can kind of reach this state where it's almost like a glass ceiling, and they will leave and come back and leave and come back because it almost feels like it hasn't reached its peak, but it's stalled out somewhere, and they're not sure where to go with it. It's a complex answer, but basically, I would want to know what his expectations were, and you might have had conversations about it. And so when he does want to come back together with you again, you said he was almost going to marry you and he was going to meet your parents, I think is what you said. Sounds like you are pretty close. And so when he comes back, when he starts talking to you again, it's not something I would mention right away. I would kind of just do what you've been doing before whenever he'd come back. If you do want to stick with this and keep trying with this. But at some point when you two are back together again, then maybe the time before things are moving a little too quickly on the marriage, on getting married. I don't know, but ask him about that and see if something sounds better. Like maybe instead of 2 months, let's say 6 months. Um, Something where he feels like maybe things aren't moving too quickly. I don't know the details, but it just seems interesting to me that that was about to happen and he broke up. Um, but
Yeah.
it does need to happen if this is happening because even though you don't want to marry someone to change them. In this case, what you're doing is you're going into a different type of relationship with them. And so a lot of times people, even when they are in serious relationships with people, if it's dating, there's the breakup is still seen as a smaller occurrence. It's not just this huge event. Whereas divorce, I mean, wow, the word itself even sounds so much worse. And so that's one of the reasons that sometimes when people have difficulty, rather than working on it, pushing through, seeking help, they can just break up with you. With marriage, it's not that simple. A lot of states, they have the delays, the 6 month. I think here in Tennessee, once you file for divorce, you have to wait a year because the states have kind of figured out, man, if we slow people down, a good percentage of them will actually get back together. And that's not a bad thing if those were good relationships. So keep that in mind that when you do marry this person, if this is the right person for you, I'm not saying just, yeah, find somebody and get married, then your odds of success go up. I'm not saying that at all. As a matter of fact, if somebody said that, I think I would laugh. What I'm telling you is that if the relationship feels like it's hit this glass ceiling, that's a problem. But in this case, there was about to be a marriage and he backed off. So there needs to be a conversation about some of this and determining just what his expectations are, because I don't even know, from the question, there's no way for me to know if he wanted to get married, if this was moving fast. I don't know, but some of this needs to be discussed and there needs to be very clear expectations between the two of you. Ken?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and ADHD can be a part of it, but there's obviously some missing details, and it depends on the type of ADHD. Full transparency, I'm ADHD. So I feel things, that intensity level I was talking about before, I tend to feel things very strongly. Some people with ADHD too, if you've heard Coach Lee's videos on limerence, and again, I'll encourage you, if you haven't, go watch them, because limerence is an important factor in relationships. The way I'm wired, I tend not to fall out of limerence. Like my wife, we've been married for years. When she comes home from work, when she gets home from the hospital, I'm excited to see her just like our first date. So it's like my affection just kind of stays at a higher level. A lot of times that ADHD personality, again, depending on the type, might be attracted to somebody that's more structured, more detailed. It's not just true in romance, it's true in friendship and business. Coach Lee is kind of what we refer to as an orchestrator, highly intelligent, highly structured, highly impressive, highly detailed. He doesn't just work on timelines and checklists. He works to a high degree of excellence. So one of the reasons that we're friends is opposites attract. So in certain areas, we line up strongly. Other areas, we possess gifts and characteristics the other one doesn't. So again, it's not just true in friendship, it's true in business, romance, and friendships as well. So it could be that you're more detail oriented. You might have a higher expectation of excellence. Now, this is all pretty much a shot in the dark. I'm going by the ADHD and him using the phrasing. He said he can't handle the relationship. And a lot of these principles are consistent. So if what I'm saying fits you, he might have felt overwhelmed because he might not be able to match you in certain areas. And if he feels like you're in love with the man, or you're in love with the woman that she almost is, if they don't feel like they can quite measure up to something that might come easy to you, then it's easy for them to just kind of pull back and feel anxious and feel like they're about to commit to something long term that's going to bring them more anxiety than peace, if that makes sense. So if that fits, and again, I'm going by a couple of signs, the ADHD can't handle the relationship, then there might be something there. But there might be enough details that it's worth a call. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Ken has a lot of videos on YouTube. My brain was skipping around earlier when I was trying to describe them, but on ADHD, on bipolar issues, on borderline people, all kinds of personality disorders, and even depression. I know he has a video coming up soon on that, or at least we talked about it a few days ago. But a lot of those topics, you just go to youtube.com/Coach Ken. You can see his videos and hit the subscribe button, and you'll be able to know when he has the new ones coming out. So let's go to the next question.
Yeah. All right. One stop spot. My girlfriend for 4 years broke up with me and went into a rebound relationship. She recently reached out to me saying she's sorry. We then met up a few times and she kissed me, but no emotion from her. I'm not sure if that means that they're back together or if they just met up for a kiss and there's no emotion. But
I think we have to assume they're not back together.
And probably still in the rebound relationship, right?
Yeah, and she kissed him. So remember when I was mentioning earlier about how when you have a relationship with someone that potential, it's almost like it always exists, that there's no going back from it. Even if you break up and you get on other sides of the world, there's this notch in your mind and your heart where your mind and your heart connect, where it's kind of like it's all theirs. And so the potential always exists. And that's why when you're around someone, like even in this situation, it was actually pretty easy for her to kiss him. It felt natural because they had that relationship. And unless there was abuse and trauma and just that kind of thing, and even then there can be some of this as well. But if the relationship was a pretty good one and things just fizzled as far as attraction fell, that's not a good thing. But it also means that it's going to be easy for her to do something like that. And that's where it's so difficult to know. Most of the time, it's terrific. Most of the time, if they do something like that, it is a home run. But you said she was numb. She didn't feel anything. I assume she said something, told you that was the case. If she's in a rebound and she's experiencing limerence with this person, then comparatively speaking, the emotions and even the drama and the passion associated with this new person are going to be higher because she's not as intimate. Which that you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, they are not as intimate because they're trying to get there. And so the process of creating intimacy where you're learning about them. So intimacy is where you're exploring this person, right? Not just physically, but emotionally speaking. You're exploring them in every way. You're getting to know them. You're having new experiences with them. And so your intimacy, while it's maybe growing fast, it's quickly building, but it's not equal to what she had with you. So that's where you have a good shot at things going south. But at the moment, because things are moving so quick, probably with this other guy, as far as building intimacy, it feels like she feels nothing with you. And yet it was something that she was able to do pretty comfortably. Because you think about it, if you're around a stranger, you're not going to kiss them unless you want to most of the time. You know, if you don't, it's going to be weird. But she did because it was comfortable to do and because that intimacy was there and it was almost automatic. So that's a catch 22. I mean, those the positive and you got a negative in that. That's pretty difficult to have to deal with. But just know a lot of the same stuff we said about about rebound relationships still apply. That a lot of times, if it's truly a rebound, in other words, if she did this, if she got into this relationship just because she was missing being in a relationship and she's trying to find you in some ways, or later realizes that, a lot of times, as bad as I feel for people who are the rebounds, but a lot of times it can start to really work against that relationship. And especially when you're the one not reaching out and you're in no contact. Mr. Fox, Coach Fox.
Yeah. No, I don't think I can improve on your answer. I'm gonna let that hang there.
All right, we can go to the next one.
I'll co-sign it. Okay, sorry, it's a Da Vinci Sosa. I have a small baby with my ex, and I've been doing smart contact after 4 months. Only talking to her about the child, and even on our first date, I was flirty yet reserved. And today she called me and texted me 3 times. Time to make a move. I'm a little confused. Let me see. 4 months only talking to her about the child, even on our first date. So I was flirty yet reserved, and today she called me and texted me 3 times. Time to make a move. I'm going to assume they're not back together. Otherwise, probably not asking the question. If you're not back together, but she's in that contact because you've been doing smart contact, then let it keep building. Look, when somebody's broken up with you and you see smart contact, you see the principles we're talking about starting to work, let it build. Let her, at least until she's the one that acknowledges or initiates something about getting back together. You have that built in, like in the breakup kit. They gives you several good examples of ways you can kind of orchestrate a meetup, have a conversation. Well, you kind of have that built in with the baby. You have some long-term built into your calendar times where you're going to interact. So do what you're doing. And just, it's kind of what we refer to sometimes as being on display without being in pursuit. So when she sees you, she kind of gets to see the best of you. You be relaxed, be warm, but be brief. Don't look for ways to extend the interaction and come across like you're in pursuit, because then it can lessen what you're seeing. So just kind of hold the course until she initiates, or at least can tell you, hey, are you open to giving this another try? That's what I would say to do.
Beautiful.
Bam.
And I did add that link. If you're, he called it smart contact. What he and I used to call it that. We've now started calling it strategic contact because some people got mad at us, threatened to sue. But anyway, so we're calling it strategic contact now. Um, even though I still rank first for smart contact, I need to stop talking and you to ask the next question.
No, no, yeah, no, yeah. You kind of dominating the whole realm right now on YouTube, big man. Okay, so let's see, that was Da Vinci. So Sally Chua, she paid for a question, but it didn't show up. My ex and business partner broke up with me in August to run away with a client. No contact since September 24th. Ex has been texting me for business and telling me about her health. Why?
All right.
Well,
I'll let you catch your breath and I'll take a quick stab at that one. So
beautiful.
the more that someone shares about you, about the facts and the feelings of their life and of their day, the more that shows that there is a craving for intimacy with you. And in this case, it would be what appears to have been lost, what he's not getting day to day from the breakup. And what's important is that he could be in a situation where he feels like you are the one he turns to. You're the one who he wants to talk to, who will listen to him, who will understand, and who he just feels better getting it out there, to getting it off his chest, explaining himself, or even if it's health issues, um, when I was going through one a couple of years ago, one of the most natural people for me to talk to, other than my wife, was Ken, because we were great friends. We spoke a lot as it was. I mean, we're best friends. And so he was very supportive of me. And I would look forward, because it can be pretty intimidating, and it can be uh, anybody who has anxiety understands it. When you have a big time health threat and you're waiting to hear, and in some ways it almost feels like you're waiting to learn if you're going to live or die, you know, it really focuses you. And I remember I would look forward to hearing from Ken during the day. I knew it was coming because he was really considerate. And I would look forward to that. It was like, Ken, I'm going to hear from Ken again because it's not midnight, or something like that. And that is something, it's really difficult to put into words, but if you can get to that level with your ex where they feel that way towards you, where you're the one they want to talk to and share the details of their life, it's really just the best position you could possibly be in if you want to get them back. And that's one of the reasons we say no contact at first, because at that moment, you're only pushing them away, right? Because it's you trying to push this and drive this, and it's what you want and not what they want. But you're saying, I understand you want the breakup, but I don't. So you're going to listen to me. And it's justified. I'm on your side with this. I really am. But you have to look at it from their side. And so you have to give them the breakup at first for them to feel that loss and to experience those days without you, so that they want another shot at this intimacy with you. So it's important to look at it that way and to kind of see what's happening as it's happening, because no contact is not the only step. It's just the first step. Unlike what, other people in some other videos will tell you, that Coach Lee seems to think that no contact just magically fixes everything and that the relationship just gets back together and you just go on your merry way. But if you watch my videos, I constantly tell you this is the first step and there's more to it. And this is what gets you back into the door, but there's more that has to be done if you want this to be long term. So keep that in mind. But based on what you're telling me, if he's wanting to talk to you about these things and share with you these things, then he definitely feels intimacy for you. What I would suggest is you need to see him face to face. If he's talking to you this frequently and he hasn't suggested it, you don't really lose much by making a simple invitation. It could even be if he's going to have a test screening for his health for whatever's going on that day. You could even say, well, how about let's meet for coffee after, and you can tell me all about it. Something like that. I mean, you can be more creative with it, but keep it basic and simple and casual like that. Don't make it feel like a date. And you grow from there. In a lot of ways, you start over. Like this is your first date with him. On the first date, you're in the mindset of I'm going to build intimacy with this person. That's why we interview each other, right? So what do you do for a living? Did you want to do that when you were a little kid? Where did you grow up? Yeah, those are basic questions that some people might say are boring, but you need to find out those facts about them. You need to find out those details because it's natural for you to do that. You're growing intimacy. So that's where you need to feel like you are. You are in that position of you're starting over. He has a desire for intimacy with you, so give it to him. Let him talk to you and tell you all about it. You be a good listener. People really value that. And in a lot of ways, you're starting over and you're going to move as you would if you were dating him. Um, a lot of times they fall into line. Now, sometimes women are not comfortable doing that. They'd rather the man take the lead on that. Because with a guy, I'd say, if you're starting over with her and she's reaching out to you, wanting to talk about these things, and you get to be face to face, then treat it like you're starting over with her. And I encourage you to go in for the kiss. People say, "Oh my goodness, what if this happens? What if he doesn't kiss me back?" All this kind of stuff. Sometimes you got to take a swing for the fence every now and then. Or in this case, it's more like a base hit. You got to just go for it sometimes. And when they've given you signs like that, I think Kim would agree with me. If they are doing this kind of thing where they're wanting to tell you these important things and that they clearly value it and it's on a regular basis, that's when I would say the reward in the situation outweighs the risk, and you should go for it. However you define that, as far as if that's going in for the kiss or if that's simply making yourself available for a kiss. But that's another topic for another time. But
That's a really good answer, though. And like you said, there's a lot of times there's nothing lost, and let's say you don't get the reaction you want. Well, you've had reason, you've had cause to kind of take that step. So it's not like you're not in that pleading, chasing, annoying stage.
right,
Just there's a valid opportunity.
yeah, and you earned it by not that you didn't want it. Just because you didn't act on it doesn't mean you don't want it. It means you're
Yeah,
being disciplined. Okay, and
yeah,
you did the right thing. And what happens is, when people do no contact, they get to these situations where they can build a relationship, they can rebuild, they can work on things, they can even figure out issues they didn't know existed. But when you treat the other person as though they should do what you want them to do, they should listen to you because you want to be heard, and you won't give them their space, you show that you can't stay away from them. These are all things that prevent you from being able to work on the relationship. So when people, still in the comments to this day will say, no contact seems like a really immature thing to do rather than work on it. They don't understand that when someone breaks up with you, they are saying, I don't want to work on it anymore. They're not motivated to work on it. Like
yeah.
one of the examples I give is if I said, hey, I want you to cut my grass and wash my car and I'll give you $1, you'd probably be like, oh, okay, no thanks. I mean, unless you want to do it at that price, in which case just shoot me an email. But if you were offered that, you would probably say no. That's what your ex feels like when you're saying, let's work on this. They're saying, I don't think I'm getting much of a reward for it. I don't want what the work would bring. Of course, you're saying, but it would be a great relationship if we worked on it. And it would. It's just they don't want any relationship with you right now. And they feel like they don't even want it, even if it was better than it was. And even if the issues were resolved. And so that's where you have to give this space and allow this space. And you have
Yeah.
to let them see what it's like without you so that they can hopefully feel that as loss and see the breakup as a negative. And that's not a long shot at all if you were just a decent person in a good relationship. It's really not. It may take some time. It may not happen, but you know what? It happens a lot. And I know I speak for Ken, and I get them all the time emails where people are telling me that they just applied no contact and it worked. And people also say I had several coaching sessions and we did some other things because the situation was more complicated and it worked. So people get back together all the time. The journey's long. Take it one day at a time. And let's go to the next question.
Okay, I think this wraps it up for the night. But it's a bad breakup. It says broke up by lying about messaging other women, being flirty, begged and pleaded for a week until police contacted. Police said back off. 30 days, no contact on everything. Talked about forever and how in love we were. What are the chances? Yeah.
So, whenever the police are involved, I, it gets really difficult for us because if if the laws, I mean, in this case, the law wasn't broken, but you have been told by policemen to stay away, and I have to assume that she's the one who called them. So, in a lot of ways, there's a fork in the road here because either she really thinks that you deserve to have the police called on you, or she's using it unethically. And that's a legitimate question because if you were not getting it and you weren't staying away and she kind of felt like you were beginning to behave like you weren't stable, I could see some reasoning there in her contacting the police. We don't know really what happened, but I can tell you that you need to be very cautious because if you think that she overreacted and that you really didn't need to have the police called on you, then we've got a character flaw with her that she would do that. I mean, that's really undermining the relationship. That's really a low blow, calling the police on somebody. So try to reverse the situation. If you called the police on her, do you think 2 weeks later she'd be really pushing to get back together with you? I do see that. I mean, I've seen men call the police on women, like the joke I made about the person who kid in the poll on my community. I asked kind of what would work after a breakup, and I added an answer that I thought was funny, and it was, you should kidnap their cat. And it got second place, by the way, out of all the options. But that's because I mentioned it in a video, and that actually happened. One of my clients, I will not mention names. We're very privacy oriented, but I can tell you the story. And she basically said that she kidnapped his cat because he wouldn't talk to her. And she left a note that said, I have your cat. You can have her back or you can have him back when you come talk to me, which was basically like a ransom letter. And it really happened. She
Yeah.
kidnapped his cat, and he called the police, and they went over there and got the cat, and they told him that he could press charges for what she did. He did not, but my advice to her was to, surprisingly enough, back off, leave him alone completely, because when they've called the police on you, I mean, you've got to show them an extreme version of understanding by backing away from them. Okay. And them feeling like you can stay away. Because if they call the police on you because you wouldn't stay away, they really need to see, even if it's some small steps, see that you can stay away. Because either she doesn't think you're stable, in which case you definitely need to stay away and show her you can stay away and be stable and be just you, and that you don't need her day to day to live, because that can get weird too. But anyway, or if she used it unethically, in which case you've got to be honest about that and figure that out. And you probably don't want her back. If she's going to manipulate the system to try to hurt you, you don't want her back. I'm just being honest with you. So figure that one out, in my opinion. Ken?
Yeah. There was one part though that kind of got maybe. So there's two things that jumped out. Number one, I agree with everything you said. And when the police are involved, you really listen to what he just said 3 times. Take it really seriously. Um, and I did wait. We did just get something from him. He added, she called the police because I reached out to friends to speak to her on my behalf. Okay, so that can still be kind of taken a couple of ways. So it says you broke up. It was a bad breakup. Broke up because you broke her trust by lying about messaging other women and being flirty. So there's a lot there that can be kind of open to interpretation. Like if you were cheating on her multiple times, and this is something that's come up in the past, and she broke up with you, and then you begged and pleaded, and I have no idea. I'm sticking with what Lee said. So now let's just cover another alternative. If you just took it to a harassment level, I'm not going to make that assumption, but if you took it to that harassment level, and I'll be honest, I don't know you, so I mean no offense by this. Let's assume I like Coach Lee's answer. That'd be the answer I'd give. If you're, however, a narcissist, and that's why you were cheating on her, and that's why you broke her trust, and that's why you were lying, going by your own words, and flirting with other women and messing with a lot of other women behind her back, and then she breaks up with you. If you're a narcissist, that's going to hurt your ego. You're not going to like that. So it might trigger you to come after the woman that you were just cheating on, who wasn't enough to keep you happy. And then if she doesn't respond to you coming after her, that could actually increase your anxiety because you don't like the idea of somebody walking away from you, even though you don't mind the idea of cheating on her. So that could trigger you coming after her even more. And if she blocks you, then you start reaching out to friends and family. So it's possible that you're harassing her. It's possible you're stalking her. In which case, like I have a daughter. If what I'm describing matches what you did, and I have no idea if it does or if it doesn't, but if it matches what you did, as the father to a 23-year-old, I would have called the police. You'd actually want me to call the police as opposed to coming somewhere and trying to find somebody who's treating my daughter that way. So it just depends. Look, if you made a mistake, you regret it, and you want to talk to her, and she's just punishing you because you cheated on her or you were flirting behind her back, then the cops, it's a severe move. But you need to really take a serious look if you want to be with this person. If you're stalking her because your ego's been wounded, then leave her alone. Go find somebody else. So it just kind of depends which one of those you're in the middle of. And I'm not trying to offend you. So forgive me if I'm making assumptions about your character. I'm not. I don't know. So let's just assume that you're not a narcissist manipulator. Go with what Lee said. If you can't leave her alone because she just kind of got tired of putting up with your mess, then leave her alone or go to jail.
Yeah, and that's another caution I would give you is because if it's a second time they're called out over it, they might start referring it as to like a domestic situation or domestic abuse. And then you've got, what are they called? The red light laws. I don't even know what they're called, but red flag laws. But
yeah, there's different levels too. There's orders of protection. There's restraining orders, and they start getting a file on you. It's not worth it. So they can abuse it if you don't deserve it. If you're really going into that stalking territory, even if you are sorry, that doesn't give you a right to just keep insisting someone talk to you. So again, I'm definitely not accusing you of anything. I don't know you, and what you're going through right now might make you worthy of a big hug and a lot of support. If that's not the case,
just assume that you're totally innocent. I do. If that means to me that you need to protect yourself even more because you don't want to be falsely accused and falsely have something that's going to negatively affect your life for years to come when you're innocent, so in a lot of ways it's like if she's going to do that to you, okay, you're going to find something else. You're going to find someone else who's better than that, who's not going to try to manipulate the system. So could be a big time turnoff unless you deserved it a little bit, which either way, I suggest you just totally back off and use what I call the no contact rule.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we agree. We both kind of get our ears perked when restraining order of police because that's so serious, and a lot of good men are really kind of torn to pieces. So, like if it wasn't warranted, then man, you got my sympathy because I know that's a really painful experience. But let it be a warning because if she's willing to do it now, then if you get back together, you're going to hit another challenging time. That's part of being in a grown-up, intimate relationship. You're going to have challenges. If the person you're going to go through challenges with is willing to pull out the police factor, let that scare you a little bit. I think
Okay.
that wraps us for the night, and that way you can go down to the first floor, and I don't have to worry about you doing a super chat with me and getting killed. Is it still storming where you're at?
The thunder's in the distance, but it's still raining.
Yeah.
But earlier it
Dude, that
was.
sounds like an Instagram post from Coach Lee. Thunder's in the distance, but it's still raining.
Don't know what that means yet, but I'm sure I can figure something out because it
I like
does
that.
sound poetic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds like I like to sleep when it's like a rainy night.
Oh,
Everybody,
dude, that's my jam.
yeah, especially on a tin roof. I remember
Yeah.
growing up, and my grandpa had a house and a farm, and they had a tin roof. And I remember the first time it rained, I was like, "What is that?" My mom's like, "That's rain on a tin roof." And I felt, I mean, it was like giving me a Tylenol PM or something. I mean, I just
Yeah.
straight to
Peaceful.
sleep. And so, wish we still had some tin roof places. That'd be a pretty neat hotel concept. Like we have a tin roof. Come sleep, sleep like a baby in our tin roof hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do we have questions left that we need to tell them to
Uh,
email us that have paid?
I think we covered them all. If we did miss anything, then if you want to give them that email address for you again.
All right. So, if you paid for a question and we didn't answer it, please email myexbackcoach@gmail.com and tell Amber, send her a screenshot, showing you paid for it, and we'll email you and let you know. And hopefully, those of you who are here who did not pay for a question still got some value out of our answers and discussion from what we talked about. But be sure to subscribe to Coach Ken and his link. The text of it is right there. It's not a link, but it's just youtube.com/Coach Ken. All right. You can also book a call with him, myexpatcoach.com/coach-Ken. And you can just go right there and there's his calendar. And there's also this little ditty here on the emergency breakup kit where you get a code that takes off quite a bit. It's either 20 or 25%. And there are also inside the breakup kit links to book a call with Coach Ken. You can also book a call with Coach Rex here, especially if you're dealing with anxiety. That's kind of his big area, is helping people who are having anxiety, and that can be from any kind of things in life. Um, I want to do some super chats with Coach Rex in the future as well, and maybe even a night where it's Coach Rex and Coach Ken, and I'm not here and I can watch and
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can follow me on
Makes sense to
Instagram,
do.
Real Coach Lee, and Ken is on Instagram at Real Coach Ken. So we're Real Coach Ken and Real Coach Lee.
Yeah.
Easy to remember on Instagram.
Always a
So
blast, man. Always good talking to you. I might even talk to you more tonight if you're available, but I'll talk to you soon if I don't, right?
we usually do. So I'll probably talk to you soon. It's a mystery. We'll find out here in about 5 or 10 minutes. But good night, everyone. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you following me, and I hope you follow my friend here, Coach Ken, at youtube.com/Coach Ken. So you guys have a great night, and I'll
Thank
see
you,
you
brother.
soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.